go insane. Crumbling towers, streets in flames, forgotten heroes, who knows their names. Broken futures, shattered dreams, end of times,
Hello friends, this is Sam Chaney reporting for Weaponized News. Today, March 20th, 2025. Thank you for joining us on this Thursday edition of Weaponized News. Happy spring equinox. Comes on the 20th this year. And we're going to go over some of the dark occult calendar here, the season of sacrifice, as it's called, we're entering into as we await Jim Lee from Climate Viewer to jump on the line with us. Hopefully we get him on the line here soon. But let me go through season of sacrifice as we do cover the dark cult, Satanism, cults everywhere. Let's throw this on the screen. Season of sacrifice. Battles of Luxon and Concord. Great Boston Fire on this day. Baltimore riots. That's back in 1861. You can see there. San Francisco earthquake and fires. 1906. Sinking of the Titanic. 1912. All within this season, right? Season of sacrifice, you can see here. From March 19th, 20th to May 1st. All within this time frame right here. Oh, you can't even see that. Let me clear off my let me clear that out so you can see that better. Right here on our occult calendar. Massacre in Susa massacre in Armenia. The Katan massacre in Belarus, assassination of Martin Luther King, IRA car bombing, Waco massacre, April 19th, that's a big one, bad one. Oklahoma City bombing, another big bad one, also on April 19th. Port Arthur massacre, Heaven's Gate cult suicide, remember that one, that crazy one. Whiteside Middle School massacre, Columbine school shooting, Iraq War, shock and awe, Red Lake Senior High School shooting, Virginia Tech massacre, Binghamton Immigration Center shooting, Moscow Metro bombing, BPA oil spill, U.S. invasion of Libya, Icos University shooting, Boston Marathon bombing, Fort Hood shooting, Brussels bombing, Westminster attacks, Boulder, Colorado mass shooting, Moscow Concert Hall mass shooting. Remember all that? As we are in the season of sacrifice, happy spring equinox to everybody tuning in here. Looks like our audience is very small, so I don't know what's up today, but thank you guys for everybody that is tuning in, as we're still working to integrate the old Rumble. Let's check the Rumble chat. Oh, there's Barry. Barry's back. I hope you're feeling better, Barry. Sorry to hear that you were ill. Still waiting for Jim Lee to get on the line. I hope he gets on the line soon, because I was preparing the show for him. I just talked to him and he said confirm. So anyway, we'll get through some news here. Let me get to this day in history. On this day of March 20th, going back to the year 1345, the Black Death. And the experts of the time in 1345 agreed, the scientific experts of the day, scholars at the University of Paris, Sounds very coincidental to what we just saw, 5 years ago. All the experts at the university agree. So in 1345, conjunction of Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn, thought by scholars at the University of Paris to be the cause of the plague epidemic, the Black Plague, known as Black Death, the Black Death. Actual cause was the bacterium Yersinia pestis, spread by fleas, rats, and other animals. But what the hell, I trust the experts still. I don't care if it's been proven that it wasn't the planets aligning here. I still believe that theory. Right. And then we go to 1520, the Holy Roman Emperor Charles V orders all Lutheran books in the Low Countries to be, quote, reduced to ash, to burning books there for religious reasons. In 1602, United Dutch East India Company, VOC, is formed and granted a monopoly on all Dutch seaborne trade with Asia. They do love their monopolies, the powers that be. In 1760, as mentioned earlier, we saw the Great Fire of Boston destroying 349 buildings. In 1774, the Boston Tea Party, the British Parliament passes first of the intolerable acts, the Boston Port Act, which closed Boston Harbor until colonists would pay for damages following the Boston Tea Party. Kind of reminds me of, there's Jim Lee jumping on. So we're almost through with this day in history, and we can bring him in here. Continuing 1854, the Republican Party was founded on this day. In 1886, the first AC power plant in the United States began commercial operation in Massachusetts. In 1896, Marines land in Nicaragua to protect U.S. citizens. In 1954, the first newspaper vending machine was used in Columbia, Pennsylvania. In 1987, the FDA approved sale of AZT, AIDS treatment. And of course, it cured AIDS, right? Right. In 2003, we saw the ground invasion of Iraq on this day. Quite horrific. Quite horrific indeed. Jim is on the line with us here, so we'll go ahead and bring him in. I don't really even have a segue. I guess the segue, let me cover this news real quick, and then we'll bring him on. Cori Bush, former Congresswoman, husband, has been charged with wire fraud. The charges stem from allegations that he fraudulently obtained over $20,000 through the PPP. Well, the whole thing was a fraud, but they saved our life by falsely claiming to support a business with 10 employees. That the Department of Justice announced these charges, highlighting issues related to misuse of the bat disease relief funds there. The whole thing was a fraud. So what do? Fraud, triple layer fraud cake for everybody. But you would think, that being the husband of a humble civil servant, they would have higher ethical value than what we're seeing here, but not really. So yeah, here's the actual indictment, screenshot of it. So yeah, big surprise there. I'm shocked, I tell you, shocked. And then of course the big news of the day, Trump signs executive order to abolish the U.S. Department of Education, and it has to go to the Congress now. And I don't know. There's going to be a million lawsuits. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know. They're gonna fight their way through it in the courts. Here is Mr. Jim Lee from Climate Viewer. How you doing on this Thursday?
Pretty good. Want to fight about it?
that seems to be the trend here, is to keep us. Hey, let me ask you this before we start. Do you think lighting Teslas on fire is good for the environment?
I'm gonna say no.
No, man, it's crazy. It's good to see you, Jim. Thank you for joining us on Weaponized News. It's been a while since we chatted.
Yeah, it has, Sam, and I still stand by my statement. Coolest logo in the new media period. Just, I absolutely love it.
Thank you, Jim. Just to let you know, we're on YouTube, the big censor. So, but I listened to almost your whole the link to that whole call that you did, and you're savvy. You know how to get around the censors. So
I know all the keywords they don't like.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm fighting the battle to regrow my YouTube channel over here after the banning, and so I have to follow their community guidelines. You know what I mean? So anyway, just letting you know that. And we're on Facebook too as well. Facebook, it seems that now Zuckerberg's a tech bro libertarian, that they don't censor as much. They don't just, I don't know. It's still garbage. You know what I mean? But it's what we got, so it's what we do.
They flag every single video I stream.
For copyright, right?
Yeah, for copyright, yeah. For a 8-second audio clip that's in my outro, and every single time I have to send them the license. I bought this, I paid for this, and it doesn't matter. They just keep doing it every single time. So I don't know. I stopped streaming there, and I go share my video link later.
I have that same exact problem. I'll never be monetized because every video has a copy. I had to create my own intro song using AI, and they'll probably still claim copyright on that. You know,
they'll figure a way. Where there's a will, there's a. And you know, I would like to put all the blame on Facebook and Zuckerberg, but at the end of the day, it's the same two copyright troll companies that are claiming credit for this audio clip every single time. So as much as I'd like to blame, Zuckerberg for all of this, there's also this whole predatory industry of copyright trolls.
It's becoming a thing. I'm noticing that's a thing, and they're putting in the claim, and Facebook's just processing it and saying, well, you guys made the claim, and so obviously you and I, one-man shows, we don't have time to fight this stuff. But you're even going the extra step, sending them the license, and they don't even care,
Oh, they put it back up, but I mean, let's be real. Like, if you're monetized on YouTube, and they partially monetize or demonetize your video because it got flagged by the AI, and the typical lifetime of a video is about 2 days. And that's the 2 days that, you're going to get your first 1,000, 2,000 views. Then by the time you fought it, you're not going to make anything. So to all the people out there who are like, Jim does this for the money, Jim does this, he's a shill and all this stuff. I made a whopping $55 off of YouTube last month. So none of us who are doing this are doing it, because we're just rolling in the dough. Joe Rogan's of the world, yeah, they're rolling in the dough. They're doing ad reads and all that stuff. I'll be glad when I get an actual sponsor and then I just read the ads and I can turn off the YouTube ads altogether. But every nickel counts when you're paying $1,500 a year for servers, software. I mean, I'm on Restream Pro. You're on Restream right now. Restream Pro is $450 a year. I don't think people really realize that. Like, we're coming out of pocket for almost everything we're doing.
No, Jim, we did a campaign at the end of last year, begging for money on the internet, and our audience donated a lot of money and actually helped us pay all the bills for, like you're saying, the streaming software, subscriptions to news services, all this stuff that people just don't understand unless you're in the game like we are. We understand there's a lot of overhead cost to produce a show and put it out there on the internet and live stream it.
Yeah, and then there's all the money you invest in equipment. I mean, usually I would plan it like all of my bills come due at tax time. And I would literally do a GoFundMe every year to try to fund the entire year. I didn't even do it this year because, like, literally just, I don't know. People are burnt out on it. People aren't donating. And honestly, like right now in this whole, chemtrail, contrail debate and all the state laws that are getting passed and me going hard on the chemtrail people, my comments are mainly flooded with people who are like, you killed Santa Claus, and I can't believe you said that. And I want the Jim Lee of 10 years ago back. And this isn't my favorite comment ever. And I pinned it to the top of the video. I'm going to cover it in my video tomorrow. Somebody literally said that they believe the CIA got to me, but not just got to me and paid me off. They killed me and replaced me with someone else. I'm like, I've reached a new level.
I believe that
of shillery.
I believe that. Well, you took the Musk brain chip, right?
Yeah, I mean, y'all want to see my Neuralink port? I can like swing the camera around real quick. No, like at the end of the day, it's like people go, wow, man, I can't believe you changed. And I'm like, in 10 years, if you haven't changed, you're probably the problem. Like if you don't change your opinion on anything in 10 years, then maybe it's not me. I don't know. It's a very controversial topic. Anytime you get into weather modification, geoengineering, HARRP, God forbid you talk about NEXRAD or chemtrails, people tend to lose their mind. And right now I'm literally battling to keep my channels afloat because there are so many people coming in and leaving comments like, let's shoot down the planes. And I don't think people really realize behind the scenes how much effort goes into just simply trying to put out the fires from these agent provocateurs that are trying to January 6 my dang YouTube channel. I mean, that is literally, I just got off the phone with a representative from a state who's currently passing geoengineering and weather modification laws that if I said his name, you would know it, but confidence is key. And he was saying the same thing, that literally they passed this law and now there are people threatening the people in the government because they're not doing something about it, threatening their lives. So we've really gotten to a really weird place with all of this where, the loudest people are out there just, making all these threats and they're making us all look bad. And I mean, that's how it goes with any movement. If you're trying to do good, if you're trying to change the world, inevitably along come the agent provocateurs and they try to, poo-poo the whole party.
Yeah, we talked about that a little bit last night. Yeah, anytime, any movement that you do, they're government's going to send in provocateurs, try to provoke violence and get you in trouble. That's a COINTELPRO. It came out in the in those JFK files that leaked that they sent some spy. The CIA sent a spy into a Catholic peace organization in the 60s to agent provocatorum. It's like that's standard operating procedure for the government.
To this day, in fact, I was looking, this is probably close to 10 years ago. There was a leaked Department of Homeland Security Fusion Center report. And the Fusion Centers, for those who don't know, they take like reports from local police departments and then they fuse them together and then they provide them to the intel agencies. So they're like kind of a middleman from the local sheriff's departments and police departments and scouring social media. And by the way, they're also the ones who are behind all of the, the censorship around questioning election in 2020. That would get you demonetized. That would get you deplatformed. If you said anything about the Rona, you got, the medical misinformation strikes. I got one. Discord deleted my chat with 6,000 members. And all I did was read a paper from airline executives to the Biden administration, word for word. I have a news LLC, so I should be protected by the First Amendment. But no, just simply reading somebody else's words was enough to get you banned. That was through DHS's CISA, the Cybersecurity Infrastructure System Security Agency. So secure they had to put security in the title twice. They described,
Keeping us safe, Jim. Keeping us
yeah,
safe.
they're safe from yourself. This Ministry of Truth literally came up with a term called MDM, mis, dis, and malinformation. Now, we all know what misinformation and disinformation is, but malinformation isn't necessarily not true. It's just that the government doesn't like it and it's harmful to democratic institutions. So, what they basically did was they flipped the law on its head and said any of these terms, if you use them, they are a cyber attack because that's their job. CISA is the cybersecurity firm of the DHS. So they basically said, if you're saying these things online, then you're doing a cyber attack on democratic institutions, and therefore you need to be silenced. We need to limit your speech and your reach. And that's where the whole shadow banning, limit reach, all that stuff that they do comes in. And Mike Benz is one of the people that really brought this to the forefront, that it was put in place by the Atlantic Council. Irony much, the Atlantic Council is a bunch of ex-CIA guys that are a think tank for NATO. So when you look at the grand scheme of things, what's going on right now is that NATO is all the European countries that are demanding Apple provide the encryption keys for people's iClouds. They're demanding that Elon censor X. It's all coming out of the European Union. Why? Because it all comes from the same place at the Atlantic Council and all of these shady NGOs that basically want to control the narrative, to pick the winners. They decide what consensus building is and who should be the president. And when things don't go their way, they're going to control it, like the Ministry of Truth in 1984 by shutting us all up. But I think they're starting to realize we're not going to shut up. So they're going to have to figure out a new way to make this thing go away.
They're getting rid of the Department of Education. What do you think about this? Is it good, bad? You don't care?
I think it's phenomenally good. And at the same time, I don't care because I pulled my kids out of school a while ago. I have an 8-year-old and a 15-year-old daughter. Both of them, very smart, daughters, beautiful, intelligent. They have side jobs, like, one's a ballerina, the other one's a full-time artist. Both of them play musical instruments. We're homeschooling. We put them in private Christian, school for a while, but even at the private Christian school, we were running into all kinds of problems with, let's just say the alphabet people. Here in sunny Sumter, South Carolina, of all places, you would think that wouldn't be, affecting this area, but, we didn't have to deal with all of the lockdowns and the mandates. God bless our governor for not taking the money from the federal government. So at the private school, they were open on day one. They were open the entire year, and there wasn't a single case of the bat flu. But still, we decided we were going to pull them out of the school altogether and homeschool them. And that's probably the best decision I've ever made. And God bless my wife. We've been together 26 years. Not only does she support what I'm doing, but she's the legs under my table, and I certainly wouldn't be eating half as good, and my kids wouldn't be so brilliant if it weren't for her. So and I understand that's not the life for everybody, but you have to make hard decisions. We'll spend a little less money here. Daddy will make all the money. Mama's going to take care of the house, and we're just old school like that. So for me, the whole, I'm watching Doge with popcorn.
That sounds very misogynistic to me, Jim.
I know, man. I am so TradCon. We were TradCon before that was a thing.
A lot of weird stuff over the last 10, 15 years has come out on the internet. I'm just like, wow, you people are crazy, man. You know what I mean? Like, everybody wants to be in their little micro group, and I don't know. I was like,
I refuse to be in any group, dude. Like, don't put a label on me. Don't put me in some box. Whenever I'm filling out any form and it's got boxes, like, what are you? White, black, Hispanic, Native American? Well, my mom's side's Native American. My dad's side's Scottish. Can I check multiple boxes on this thing? Like, no.
Well, they're openly. I guess it's dying down now, but they openly discriminate, and there's a bunch of lawsuits against white people and Asians, and they say Asians are white, the federal government and the state governments, and they openly discriminate against white and Asians.
Well, it seems like the only not protected group at this point, and you can do and say just about anything to white people and Christians. You can't question, Islam. You can't question Jews. You can't question any other color, any gender fluid person. I can't pick on the transgengas, but they can hate me if I don't want to date one. It doesn't even make sense. I mean, I've got gay friends that are like, people are saying that I'm transphobic because I don't want to date a trans person, but I'm gay and I like other gay men. That's my preference. So, like, the world is freaking weird now. And that's why I literally was like, you know what? The best thing I can do is opt out, take my kids home, and we will educate them with Christian morals. We will educate them with historical facts. We will tell them the brutal, honest truth about the world that they're about to grow up in, and hope that they, that they're, I don't even have to hope. I already know based on my oldest, she's like light years ahead of most kids her age. And that's because I've never sugarcoated anything. You know what I mean? Like, is Santa real? No, Santa's mom and dad. You asked the question, now you got the answer. We don't sugarcoat anything, because at the end of the day, I cannot tell my kids that Santa Claus is real, the Easter Bunny's real, the Tooth Fairy's real. And then when they ask me, is he really real? I know that they've reached that maturity level to ask the question, so I tell them the truth. Why? Because it doesn't make sense to convince somebody that Santa, the Easter Bunny, and the Tooth Fairy are real, but I still want you to believe in Jesus.
And well, if you start off with these myths telling your kids it's real, then you start off lying to them, and then that, that puts in the back of their mind, hey, if you're lying about that, once they figure out that it's all just make believe, and what else are you lying about? Maybe I just won't listen to you or respect what you got to say, because you already lied to me when I was a little kid about the Easter Bunny.
Yeah. And I mean, it's all fun and games. Like, even, after I told my youngest Emma, she finally came to that point where she asked the question. Now she knows, but she doesn't care. She still's like, yay, Santa came. So she knows, but she still gets excited by it. So you can still have that fun and be honest with your children. I think that a lot of people grow up in this world where, like, there's a lot of yes men and yes women around them. And I'm going to, you know what? I play like 7 Degrees of Kevin Bacon, but with chemtrails. I could tie everything back to chemtrails. I mean, honestly, like, it's a curse, dude. It lives rent free in my mind. So, like, I'm going to convince you that everything is a secret government program. There's no such thing as contrails. The government's out to get you. But wait, no, I was just kidding. Actually, none of that's true. Contrails turn into cirrus clouds. But geoengineering is still a thing, and you should be concerned about it. That's the world we live in right now, where I've been trying to convince people to, go hard against the David Keys, the Ken Calderas, Bill Gates, and the National Science Foundation, NCAR, and all of the different organizations involved in trying to legalize geoengineering. But at the same time, everybody thinks that geoengineering is planes making clouds. That's, it's either geoengineering or chemtrails. And I mean, I was literally just talking to a senator just a short while ago, and, having to explain this to him, and he got it like almost immediately.
Let me just throw it out there. Is Geoengineering Watch is that a misinformation outfit. What do you think? To lead people down, because I was listening to your call, the link that you sent me, that video you did a day ago or 2 days ago, whenever it was, and that puts that in my mind. Is that whole operation a misinformation to send people down all these rabbit trails that are dead ends to nowhere?
I think that, all right, because I've been called shill and agent so many times, I would never cast that, scarlet letter on Dane Wigington. However, Dane Wigington in 2007
He's very
wrote,
doom and gloom, though. I can't listen
yeah,
to the guy, honestly, because it's end of the world doom and gloom. It's like, yeah, but really,
yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, we can all agree it's fear porn. I mean, at the very least, that's what I call it. I don't know what you call it, but for me, clickbait fear porn is a problem. People are addicted to porn. People are addicted to fear. And if you're one of those people who are addicted to fear, I'm not your guy. I'm never gonna be your guy. You tune to, go to Redacted, go to freaking Alex Jones, go somewhere else, because I'm just going to tell you the blatant honest truth, the what at least I believe to be the truth based on what I know and what I've been able to prove. Whether it gets me followers or not, I don't care whether you like me personally. And at the end of the day, here's the problem with Dane Wigington, in my personal opinion. And I say attack ideas, not people. So that's exactly what I'm going to do right now. His ideas are dangerous
by the way,
because
how the media says, I did email him, not to come on this show, but to get him on about his documentary, The Dimming, I think it's called Dimming. And he never got back to me. So I did reach out for a comment, not about this issue, but about his documentary Dimming. And he never got back to me. Anyway, side note, go ahead.
yeah, we're gonna do a response to that called the dumbing, and because of the way fair use works, because it's 2 hours long, we would have to watch it in 30-minute segments and do like an hour per 30-minute segment to make darn sure it's fair use. So right now I have a panel of like anywhere from 5 to 7 people who've already said, yes, I would love to attend this. And we're going to do it on Restream and just play the video, pause it, react, bring up the true, what's true, what's not. And I mean, right off the get, he drops a whole bunch of patents that have nothing to do with planes making. See, Barry's like, Dane brings receipts, though. Barry loves me and loves Dane. That's the problem. Like, hey, Barry, I understand, dude. You can't have it both ways, though, brother. Like, you're gonna have to, hey, I don't say throw the baby out with the bathwater. Dane has done a great job of bringing attention to this problem. Okay, he deserves his flowers. He's put in the work to raise the alarm. Where I take issue with what Dane says is when he tells people things like high bypass turbofans, jet engines cannot create contrails. Okay, that's number one for me, because if that were true, then how can I predict when there's going to be chemtrails over Tennessee? Tennessee banned geoengineering and weather modification. It did not change the skies. And I can literally predict when the clouds are going to appear over Tennessee. Am I a magician? Are
you a witch doctor?
Yeah. I mean, am I casting bones? Am I cutting chicken heads off? Do I have a hotline directly to the Illuminati that lets me know when they spray? Or is it really just as simple as being able to read a radio sign, which is something that's connected to a weather balloon, that tells me what the temperature and dew point depression is in the air? And then we can actually predict with about a 90% certainty when planes are going to create clouds. Oh, let me translate that for the imbeciles. When it's a spray day and when it's not. So when I can predict with a 90% certainty when a spray day is going to be, then clearly I'm not a prophet. There's only been one prophet that I will acknowledge, and that is Jesus Christ. I am not him. I am far from him. I'm a very flawed individual, and I'm petty, like South Park petty. I'm like Tom Petty on South Park. So like I will get into the ad hominem. I do, have a loose wire. I do like to mock my opponents as I beat them mercilessly with words. And I don't consider that an attack whatsoever. A
Well,
lot of people,
to me, it feels like he did a great job raising awareness about there's something going on with this geoengineering, but then after hearing you talk, it's like, but it's always a dead end. You know what I mean? It
exactly.
leads
So,
to a dead end, essentially.
so what I say to people is this: your simple litmus test should be, if somebody is trying to scare the hell out of me, but they're not offering a solution, that is an infotainer. That is not an activist. It's a simple litmus test. If you have a problem and you're complaining about a problem, but you do not have any solution or even a semblance that you care enough to give people a direction, then you're essentially putting fear into people, and fear is a mind killer. So now that you've killed their minds with fear and you've told them that it's all secret government programs, oh, and there's a NOAA gag, and the National Weather Service has a gag order on it. Not true. I can bring up the gag order right now on the screen to prove that. And he knows this. So PEER was the group that actually represented the union of workers who work for NOAA and the National Weather Service. The gag order was actually a non-disclosure agreement between federal workers and the agencies saying that during union negotiations, you are not allowed to talk about those negotiations. Does that make sense, Sam? That if you were in a union and you're having a mediation with the federal government to argue over how much you get paid, that there would probably be a non-disclosure agreement saying, don't go talking to the public about our internal union discussions with the federal government.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it makes perfect sense. And in fact, you can read all 5 of those non-disclosure agreements right on PEER's website. So I told this to Renette Senham, and then Renette had her legal team actually go out and do petitions directly to NOAA and get in touch with the representatives at PEER who were representing the federal workers. Well, it turns out I was right. That's exactly what it was. There is no NOAA, National Weather Service gag order. Therefore, there is no gag order saying that weather people that work for the government can't talk about the secret program. But he's been saying this for 15 years, and he knows this. Furthermore, he says planes can't create contrails. But in 2007, and you can read this on my Telegram chat, I have a copy of it, and it's archived on archive.org on his website. So, there are no takebacks on the internet, Dane. You should know that. In 2007, he said, diminished solar capacity uptake due to persistent jet contrails by Dane Wigington, Shasta, California. So why did Dane start in 2007 saying persistent jet contrails were blocking out the sun and, basically ruining his solar panels on his filthy rich mansion on 1,000 acres in California? But now he says planes can't create contrails at all. And really, it's a twofold reason. Partly because he's a narcissist. The other part is because Russ Tanner from Chemtrail Global Skywatch got in his ear. He put together all of this mumbo jumbo pseudoscience and then partnered with Dane, and then Dane took it, put it on his website. It's still on the front page of his website every single day.
That's what I'm saying. Is that intentional, in your opinion? Because obviously we don't know, we're not them, insiders in their operation, but is that intentional dismiss information, or are they mistaken? What do you think?
The only conclusion that I can come to is at this point it's intentional, and the reason why is because as a certain loudmouth girl from California who how do I say this? I'm petty. I'm just going to do it. A girl who goes by the name of Mellow Cat, she confronted some chemtrail pilots. And, you know, whenever I said, when she started advocating violence, she said, I wasn't advocating violence. And by the way, Jim Lee hacked Dane Wigington's computer. No. What I did was I went on to Dane Wigington's website.
You're not hacking people, are you, Jim?
No, I've been a hacker since I was 12, but I'm now law enforcement. Okay. So, like, no, Jim doesn't break laws. I don't go around randomly hacking people on the internet because I got better things to do with my time. Now, if you come at me, that's a whole nother story. But regardless, I scanned his website and realized that he's running WordPress on his website, and he had a documents folder. And the documents folder wasn't properly protected with an htaccess file, which means that indexes were on, which means that I could see all of the files in the folder. So all I did was basically on a live stream go, look at this, people. And geoengineeringwatch.com/WP content, that's WordPress content, /documents, it's right there. By the way, everybody, you could type that into archive.org and go see what I'm telling you myself. We're geoengineeringwatch.org/WP, as in WordPress, -content/documents/ and go back on archive.org and you'll see all of the documents in his folder. And what you're going to see is hundreds of papers on contrails. In fact, a lot of those papers on contrails, like the U.S. Air Force fact sheet on contrails, like the wake vortex test, that he literally opens his film with this picture of this plane with these smoke trails coming off of it. But he knows that that was a Dryden Air Force Base wake vortex test on a 747 where they actually attached smoke generators to the plane to see what the wake vortex, what the wind does behind it. It's a tracer test to see how much turbulence is created behind a plane. So the funny thing about it is, like, he's harvesting all these contrail documents, telling everybody contrails aren't real, cutting pictures out of these documents, and then saying, look, proof of my chemtrails. But don't say chemtrails, say geoengineering, because credibility is key. Nobody's buying this crap anymore. 80% of my Telegram chat are people who used to follow Geoengineering Watch. So at the end of the day, I always ask people, I'm like, how'd you hear about me? Because I'm like the most shadow banned guy on the internet when it comes to this thing. Like, you know, where did you first hear about? Well, I used to follow, it always starts the exact same way, swear to God. I used to follow Dane Wigington. How long? That's my next question. How long did you follow Dane Wigington before you look for me? On average, cannot make this crap up, 3 to 10 years. I mean, you got some hardcore people who followed him for 10 years before they finally realized this guy's not saying anything he didn't tell me 10 years ago. There's been no progression. There's no action. There's no plan. I mean, at least with the Q-tards, it's trust the plan, man. You know what I mean? At least there is allegedly a plan, but with Dane, there is no plan. And then you add on top of that he believes in global warming. He constantly says this, and this is the part I cannot wrap my head around. How people can like worship this dude, but then when he says the IPCs weren't lying to us, global warming is much worse than they're actually even saying. We're actually at 5 degrees Celsius of global warming. And if it weren't for the secret geoengineering program run by the secret government, secret pumps and pipes, we would be much hotter today, but they're actually keeping it cooler. So what are you saying, dude? Are you saying that geoengineering is happening? Geoengineering is necessary. And if it weren't for the geoengineering, it would be hotter, and at the same time saying everything on the planet's going to die and is currently dying because of geoengineering. I mean, I'm just a logical person who listens to people's arguments, and then I go, that makes, like, you're saying things that you're contradicting yourself constantly.
The double think.
Yeah, I mean, literally, like, you're sitting there going, am I the crazy one? Because I know I'm not the crazy one. I mean, I am crazy. Like, don't get me wrong. My wife tells me that all the freaking time. So, like, I am perfectly aware that I was certifiably crazy for a good 10 years. I had Graves' disease. You did not want to mess with I see Jeff's Twitter friend Xander. What's up, Xander? That's my homeboy on Twitter. Love you, brother. Mean it. See, now you got me all messed up. He did that on purpose, and I'm gonna punch him tomorrow for that. So this whole double think thing he's got going on has really got a lot of people messed up, because right now in 22 states they're trying to pass legislation, and you've got all these people filled with vim and vigor. I'm trying not to.
You got people wanting to shoot at freaking planes, man.
Right.
We're right there. We're getting up there with let's go burn a Tesla.
Yeah, I mean, it's been that way though, dude. I mean, it's been that way since 2010. Let's be real. It's just getting bigger. It's getting bigger every single day. And the reason it's getting bigger every single day is because in 2004, there were 23 million flights per year globally. In 2019, there was 43 million flights per year. So, riddle me this. When Bill Gates asked Ken Caldeira and David Keith specifically, all right, dude, I'm with you. We need to stop my climate change. How much for your geoengineering?
For those that don't know, that's a top geoengineering scientist, Keith.
Yeah, well, at least he's the loudest mouth geoengineer on the planet. David
publishing papers all the time about how great it all is all the time. Yeah,
going on late night talk shows to talk about geoengineering. I'll never forget Stephen Colbert, like literally clutching his pearls over what David Keith was saying. Well, anyway, Bill Gates asked him. He said, what do you need? How much money will it cost? And in 2010, the Aurora Flight Sciences report signed by David Keith. Basically, he said, I can geoengineer the entire planet with as little as 14 747-400s. 14 planes? Like, really? You got to be kidding me. So his upper estimate was, well, we could do it with 14 of these, big planes, or we could do it with like up to 100 like KC-135s, but they would have to be running around the clock to dump 1 million tons of sulfur per year into the upper stratosphere. Now, also, they would have to be modified because no plane can fly at 70,000 feet.
And their argument for doing all this is to block the sun so we don't spontaneously combust due to global warming, right?
Oh, it's even dumber than that. You've heard the term runaway global warming, right?
It's everywhere. I've noticed they've changed the mainstream media has changed their terminology from climate change to extreme weather. I've seen in a lot of reports.
Yeah,
recently.
they're always moving the goalposts. I really got a particular chuckle when the Pope came out with global boiling. That was like
UN said it was global boiling as well.
Yeah, I mean, when the Pope and the UN said it was global boiling, I was like, now we've gotten into extra stupid land. But really, this whole idea of runaway global warming comes back to something called the Clathrate gun hypothesis. For those who want to look this up, it's even on Wikipedia. Clathrate gun hypothesis. It goes like this. They dug up some ice cores in the Arctic. They went back to here and they said, give me something that's visual. Here's the ice core. Right here is where the dinosaurs were. We looked at the dinosaur time and we saw a bunch of CO2 here. And then right here above that, we saw a bunch of methane. So here's how the story goes. Dinosaur farts melted frozen methane underground and under the ocean. And because dinosaur farts literally heated up the atmosphere, that melted frozen methane, the methane then vented into the atmosphere and the dinosaurs were killed. So that is the methane clathrate hypothesis, or clathrate gun hypothesis. And Dane Wigington believes it's true. If you want to do this, I'll show you a little. I'm going to teach everybody some Google hacking right now. Type into Google site : geoengineeringwatch.org space methane. And what that will do is that will only search Google for Dane Wigington's website for the term methane. So when you type in site : geoengineeringwatch.org, you're telling Google, I only want search results from that website. I do this all the time for like site : dtic.mil. If I want to look through military documents and PDFs, I'm going to type that in. So if I type it in, and I'm going to do a little test because, Google's really like kicked him off lately. So I'm going to do the test myself real quick. Site : geoengineeringwatch.org. Oops.
Our audience doesn't like Google so much.
Methane. Target atmospheric CO2. Should humanity aim? This is a PDF. All right, here's another one. It's a whole lot of Wow, that's a lot of PDFs. What is that? What is that? Geoengineeringwatch.org/category. He has an entire category for runaway methane scenario. So for those who don't believe that Dane Wigington believes that geoengineering, that global warming is real, then you clearly have not, looked into this. In fact, here's a search results for methane, just right here. Methane death trap threatens democracy. Can I share screen?
You should be able to.
Yeah, I'm gonna share the screen because this is just, to me, this is next level crazy.
Well, hey, anything to protect our democracy.
Yeah, hey, while you're talking about your chemtrails and your geoengineering, you got to bring up how methane's going to kill us all. Geoengineering methane eruptions and imploding Arctic ice. Methane plume seen on radar moving northwest offshore. Geoengineering forest fire incineration, dark ice, and methane extinction. Now, you know who else? And it goes on and on. And you can see this is his runaway methane scenario category. Engineering catastrophic wildfires to temporarily cool Arctic with smoke. And then the methane death trap. Anyway, this is what the group that actually came up with this ideology is called the Arctic Methane Emergency Group, ameg.me on archive.org. And this is Sam Carana and Malcolm PR Lighthouse, PR Light, not Lighthouse. Anyway, these guys actually wrote a letter to world leaders in 2012 asking for geoengineering because by 2015, all the Arctic ice would be melted, and they wanted geoengineering immediately. And they said because methane's going to vent into the atmosphere and it could cause runaway global warming. Well, it turns out they also wrote another paper, and it was called the Angels Proposal. And this shows the hypocrisy of the people who believe in climate change. Angels, Arctic natural gas extraction, liquefaction, and sales. Their solution was, let's go to the Arctic and go ahead and frack the Arctic to get the methane out from under the ice before it can vent into the sky so we don't end up like the dinosaurs. Sounds like a good excuse to go fracking some methane and make some money. It doesn't sound like it's actually about the climate to me. You sound like a bunch of mother frackers that want to go out and get some methane and make some money. So none of this stuff holds up. Even the USGS, the United States Geological Survey, said the Clathrate gun hypothesis holds no water. There will be no runaway global warming due to methane venting into the atmosphere. But Dane believes it, and he says it all the time. And he's constantly talking about the biosphere collapsing. So, like, you know, I could go on. I mean, I could do this for the next 3 hours, pointing out, you know,
debunking geoengineering watch. But
I
no,
mean,
what do you make? Okay, let's move off of that. I think it's everybody should question everything, as you always say. I always say, do your own
and I
research.
expect everybody to question me too. Like, I am not perfect. I could be wrong. Always a student, sometimes a teacher, never an expert. I've been a student a long time. I'm teaching the stuff that I learned. But I even
when there's clear contradictions, you have to. That raises red flags for me, right?
Right. So
when the logic is not consistent, then you got to have red flags raised. That wait a minute, this doesn't make sense.
And the main part for me is that if I can learn how to, and anybody in this room can learn how to read a radio sign, but you don't even have to do that. At this point, here's what my challenge to anybody that doubts that contrails are real. Go to windy.com. And on windy.com, on the menu in the top right, there's a little section that says install plugins. And if you go to that, and you know, I'd love to show this to people right now. In fact, windy.com.
There you go. I got it up here. Windy.com.
All right. So click on. I got an echo just now.
Yeah, it's because when I do share screen, I got to mute it. I muted it. Go ahead.
Okay. So go to the little red hamburger menu up there. And then it should say install plugins. Install Windy plugin. Click that. And then scroll down until you see Contrail Finder. And there it is. And click on that and hit install.
Not a virus.
Now, it's not. Now, over on where you see clouds next to your mouse, there's on that drop down of the circles. Don't open the plugin yet. Just to the left of your mouse, it says clouds. Keep going just a little further, right there where it says clouds. Click on that and click on high clouds. All right. So now hit open plugin. Now click anywhere on the map. It's going to tell you exactly what the radio sign data shows and at what altitudes contrails should exist. And you could do this. You can test this yourself.
Crystals, right?
That is the moisture at the altitude. If you actually scroll down on it, it will even show you where ice supersaturated regions is on the sidebar on the contrail finder. You scroll down a little further, you see where the check marks are. That's showing you the actual data. And I can read the data. I'm a nerd. You know, Jeff taught me how to do this. He's a former Navy meteorologist. We'll actually go read the radio sign data, but I want to keep this simple for people. So if you go to where that big section of white clouds are right there next to you, just click anywhere in there and it's going to update. Now scroll back up to the top. Interesting. Only short contrails possible at 30,000 feet. No persistent contrails. What does that tell you? That's a non-spray day. According to everybody who's a chemtrail person, they're not spraying there today. But if you go over to, let's say, right in the middle of Nebraska, just right there in the center, go to Kansas, right in the center of Kansas, that gray area. Boom. From 27,000, because I can already see where the moisture is at that altitude, that from 27,000 feet all the way up to 42,000 feet, but specifically at 36,000 feet, long, possibly persistent contrails. Longer contrails, and that's all the way down to 27,000 feet. Above that, short contrails possible, and then above that, minimal contrails may be seen. So people don't understand that the sky, there's levels, there's layers to the sky, and there's different water vapor and temperature gradients all through the sky. So being able to just simply go to a map and then look at it, I can go and I can tell the people in Tennessee, yeah, they banned geoengineering, they banned weather modification. But I'm telling you, tomorrow, the chemtrail planes are coming to get you. Ooh, and they get freaked out, dude. I'll go on Twitter and I will troll these people, and I'm like, won't be any chemtrails for the next 2 days. But I'm pretty sure on Thursday and Friday, my chemtrails are coming to get you. Hashtag Illuminati. And they're like, how does he do it? So my new thing.
You gave us the secret sauce right here, how to do it. Windy.com. You just walked us through it. So it's not these chemicals, solar radiation management program. It's actually just the altitude and the conditions.
I mean, it's still the chemicals. Like, let's be realistic here. So in order for a cloud to form, you need 3 things. You need water vapor. I just showed you that. You need the right conditions. You need some kind of radiation, what usually like in the form of galactic cosmic rays, or what are called chemi-ions. I'm going to keep it redneck. We need some static electricity. All right, so we got water vapor. We got some static electricity. And they say they're condensation trails. What they don't say is it condensates on what? Condense. That's what the word means. What does the water vapor, a gas, condense on and turn into a liquid or an aerosol? That is called a cloud condensation nuclei. Jet exhaust, which is carbon black soot covered in graphene filled with all the metals people are finding in their rain samples, is a perfect cloud seed, cloud condensation nuclei. This is not the same as cloud seeding when you're talking about silver iodide or calcium chloride or sodium chloride.
That's openly admitted, and not even, I don't even think that's controversial anymore.
Yeah, so I want to bring up an infographic because I think this would be, pretty important for people's understanding of, exactly what the heck we're talking about here.
Jim, before you do that, we got to take our halftime live commercial break. Plug your stuff.
Perfect timing.
Plug your stuff, or I can go first. I'll go first, and you find that, and then when I'm done plugging, you plug all your stuff. Live commercial break here on Weaponized News with Jim Lee from climateviewer.com, debunking again the chemtrail geoengineering conspiracy, the end of the world, doom and gloom. We appreciate to have him on this Thursday of March 20th, 2025. Happy spring equinox too, Jim. I didn't get to mention that to you. Everybody go to weaponizednews.com. Get some stickers over there that will help us fund. You can give us donations.
I want one.
You did always say this is you like our logo a lot.
It's the best. I'm buying one. You don't need to. I'll spend my money on that. I'm buying a couple.
We got 3 different kinds. We got the for the alphabet crew, the holograph one here, so everybody's happy. And then we have a clear white background, and then we have a transparent one. And people have put it on their laptop, their guitars, their bumper. I've seen it many different places. So you can go to Weaponized News, support us that way. We take donations. And for full transparency, thank you, audience, again. We fulfilled all the thresholds for YouTube monetization, but as we had a strike on the channel, we cannot, they're not going to let us apply until the strike is worked off, and that's like 90 days. So we're stuck in the limbo here, but we still need the 1,000 subscribers. So go to Weaponized News YouTube channel and give us a subscription there as we continue to fight the battle of monetization through Google AdSense. And will it even ever make a difference? I don't know, but you guys, hey, shout out to the audience. You guys got us those viewing hours, 4,000 plus in less than 365 days. And so we truly do appreciate all the efforts. Jim, go ahead and plug whatever you want to say on this live commercial break.
Well, I'd like to sell feet pics. I have very sexy feet, so you can go to onlyfeeds.com. I'm kidding. I have nothing to say. I have a merch shop. I don't really care if anybody buys any of it. All I'm selling here today is my work for the last 20 years. I don't see, expect that everybody understand it. I just hope that everybody will digest it and share it. So what I would suggest is that go over to connect.climateviewer.com. If you throw that up on the screen, I'll share my things. On connect.climateviewer.com, link is right there on the screen right now. You can see all three of my websites: Climate Viewer News at climateviewer.com, weathermodificationhistory.com. I see you guys in the comments over there trying to tell me about Operation Popeye and SAI. Everything you could ever try to post is already there. Don't even try. It's already been done. I'm way ahead of you on this. If you go to weathermodificationhistory.com, you can see over 800 newspaper articles from 1800 to present. Don't believe me? Do the test, go through it, and as fast as I can scroll, it'll fill the screen. We have more information here than anywhere else on the planet. The entire history of weather control from present all the way back to 1800, sorted by category. Fascinating stuff. And I put all this work into coding all my websites myself. So it is a labor of love. I do not need, anything from anybody except for a little bit of support. I want to build a studio. So if you'd like to donate, you can also do that on Climate Viewer, connect.climateviewer.com, or any of my websites, because at the bottom you will see Climate Viewer Report. This is my newsletter. Go over there, sign up for my Substack. That's where all my latest news is. I'm going to show that in just a second. Join our Telegram chat. Come over and call me a you-know-what. Tell me I'm full of crap.
You're a climate denier, Jim.
Well, you're going to have to come over to Telegram chat and prove it, Sam. Bring your, come over to my Telegram chat and say it with your chest. Subscribe to the YouTubes, the Rumble and all that stuff. Check me out on X. I'm over there all day long. I occasionally post to the metaverse, but I really don't even care about it. I just deleted them all and I'm on X. I do have a merch shop, new stuff coming soon, and you can support the work I do on these things here. But particularly for the person who was trying to say that none of this is real and everything Jim is saying, these are all the metals that are detected in jet fuel. And where did I get that from? I'm a graphics artist. I'm a web coder. I put this periodic table together to show you everything found in jet fuel. And that comes directly from here, where chromium, iron, molybdenum, sodium, calcium, aluminum. Yes, that's right. Aluminum, vanadium, barium, cobalt, copper, nickel, lead, magnesium, manganese, silicon, titanium, zirconium are all detected in jet fuel, and you can read the paper yourself right here. Chemical characterization of freshly emitted particulate matter from aircraft exhaust using single particle mass spectrometry, 2016. Oh, I didn't need to watch the dimming to confirm everything I already knew because it was on my website since 2016. The point is, this is my Substack. I just recently wrote an article called Banning Chemtrails, How to Actually Win. And people do not understand the difference between these things here. So this is another example of infographics that we create. Adam, we don't need to get Jim on InfoWars because Jim is InfoWars. If you'd rather me talk like this, I'm going to break this down for you, how the freaking Illuminati does what they do. They've got ground-based crowd-seeding generators. These are turning the frogs gay. We know this. This is provable fact. They've got ground-based cloud-seeding generators, cloud ionizers. They use lasers and marine cloud brightening. That's geoengineering on the ground, cloud-seeding flares. 1 to 10,000 feet. That's weather modification. I just covered it all in one spot, one graphic. And then stratospheric aerosol injection, we're talking 70 to 90,000 feet. Oh my God, that is way up there. No planes going that high. That's a SR-72. That's the new replacement for the SR-71. Not a lot of payload on that bad boy, but it sure does go fast. But in the middle, we got aviation-induced cloudiness. And that's where the freaking Club of Rome trilaterals are basically blocking out your sun on a daily basis. And as long as you don't believe it's contrails, you'll never, ever get to the truth. And this Jim Lee guy, he's definitely Illuminati. He's compromised. He's CIA. I know it. I can see it. You know it. And now we all know it. The point is, if I used that voice on a daily basis and delivered the same information,
you'd have a sore throat.
yeah. Well, I mean, what I used to be in, like a metal, I love metal. I sung in a band that covered Pantera and Metallica. So I could, I could do that like all day long and never get a sore throat. It takes practice. But honestly, like, people don't understand simple things like this, like where the things happen and, what it actually is. So I'm very terminology driven. And I try, and everything that I say, I back up with the sources. A lot of people will give you a whole lot of information and they won't tell you where they got it from. I am an open source believer, whether it's from open source software to open source activism. Winning is not me taking credit for the win. Winning is achieving my goals. My goals are very simple. I do not want my daughters to grow up in a world where their children have to deal with people trying to control the weather on a worldwide basis, let alone blocking out the sun. And with the projections and increased aircraft travel, because everybody wants to fly everywhere and they do not care about the fact that planes make clouds that block out the sun, that by 2050, there's a small possibility, if we don't get our feces consolidated, that people will not be able to see the stars. I don't want to grow up in that world. I don't want kids to grow up in that world. I will still be alive in 2050 because I'm doing everything I can to make sure that happens. And I'm also doing everything I can to make sure
we have to have net zero carbon emissions by that time, Jim.
Well, that's their goal. But at the same time, right now, as we speak, there are climate clocks ticking down all around the world. The Pope put one up. The King put one up in the UK. And those climate clocks, you can go to, type in climate clock into Google and go to the website. The climate clock's got an online ticker. The day that it ends is July, I believe it's July 29th, 2029. So let me get this straight. There is a climate clock currently ticking down that ends right in time for Agenda 2030.
It's just a coincidence, Jim.
Oh, yeah. 4 years, 123 days. Yep. That's July 2029. We'll be in the middle of an election year, right? Or will that already be over with? I always get this messed up in my head because it's like...
No, it's 2028 will be the...
be the election. So 2029, there'll be a new president.
Yeah, 2030 hits right in the middle. Yeah.
So Trump's going to be gone, to all the QAnons out there.
No, he's going to declare himself king, dictator for life.
Yeah, so by 2029, that climate clock runs out. And I'm going to tell you inside ballpark, inside baseball. David Keith did an interview called Suboptimal Geoengineering. And what he was basically describing was, we could use, and this one really took me by surprise, we could use 14 Gulfstream private jets to geoengineer the world if we start small by 2030. So right now, the only thing stopping them from doing a worldwide geoengineering program at 70 to 90,000 feet is one, building the equipment to actually get up that high and put white reflective material into the sky. And the other is this whole geoengineering governance. So when they banned weather warfare in 1976, they signed something called the Environmental Modification Convention, or the NMOD Treaty. And it basically says that any environmental modification technique that has a wide area and long-lasting damage to the environment, geoengineering qualifies as that because it will change rainfall patterns worldwide. There will be places that may never see rain again. Other places will be flooded. So in a geoengineering scenario of a full deployment, like David Keith wants, 100 million tons of sulfur per year, he said many tens of thousands of people will die directly as a result of that. I don't take that lightly. These are his words, not mine. Weathermodificationhistory.com/geoengineering. You can hear him say it with his own mouth. So at the end of the day, what they're talking about doing by 2030 is going ahead and starting a real geoengineering program. Well, guess what? Make Sunsets is a group of dudes, Andrew Song and Luke Eisman, out on the West Coast throwing balloons in the air right now, selling carbon cooling credits to people to do geoengineering. They did that, and they threw some up in the air off the coast of California on Baja Sur, and Mexico didn't like that. So Mexico banned geoengineering. And David Keith said, I don't exactly understand how Mexico is going to enforce their ban on geoengineering. And by the way, their ban doesn't stop commercial aviation pollution, which puts sulfur into the stratosphere every single day. So what people don't understand is that when they're talking about putting aerosols into the stratosphere.
No, but Jim, hold on a second. That's what I'm talking about. Is the whole chemtrail thing a distraction, diversion away from actual commercial aviation pollution?
That's been my belief all along. My belief personally is, because
there's some secret
the old adage
Illuminati program going on that we can never get a grip on, but we're always chasing after it. That distracts a bunch of people instead of just saying, hey, these guys are emitting highly polluting exhaust.
100 quadrillion nanoparticles per second from a 747. That's 100 with 15 zeros behind it.
Can they put a catalytic converter on that thing? What I mean?
Yeah, I know. You would think that they would do something like that. To put it into perspective, a tractor trailer, now that they are required to use ultra low sulfur diesel fuel, ULSD, is 0.15 part per million sulfur. You know what the limit is on aviation fuel? 3,000 parts per million. Now, the same was true with international shipping. They made ship tracks. They used bunker fuel. Bunker fuel was heavy fuel oil. It was extremely high in sulfur and metals. But in 2020, the International Maritime Organization banned bunker fuel. And wouldn't you know it, MIT Technology Review website came out with an article called "We're About to Kill a Massive Accidental Experiment in Cooling the Earth." And what they were referring to was pollution coming from international shipping tankers making marine stratocumulus clouds filled with sulfur and reflective metal particles. So let me get this straight. Pollution is good as long as it's a geoengineering pollution solution. Why? Because it circumvents international laws. It's just pollution. You can't write laws against, geoengineering with pollution unless you actually call it pollution. Who benefits from people talking about chemtrails? The airline industry. What do those clouds do? Well, according to all the latest science, cirrus clouds created by planes trap heat at the ground 5,000 times greater than CO2. So in reality, if we want to talk about global warming even being a thing, there is no greenhouse gas other than water vapor. There is only the greenhouse. And when you make a blanket over the planet, you trap heat at the ground that cannot get out. Anybody who goes outside at night on a cloudy night versus a completely clear night knows that it's warmer at night when it's cloudy. I experienced this when I was a Boy Scout. We're like, oh, good, it's freaking cloudy tonight. It's not, we're not going to freeze our you-know-what's off. So this is like, Farmer's Almanac science. Cloudy night, warm night, okay? So at the end of the day, they're taking advantage of this. You can go to contrails.org, and Bill Gates has literally created a website. I've been saying it for so long, at this point, they're just admitting the quiet part in public, that they want to create cooling contrails and get rid of warming contrails. So On that website, we can drastically cut aviation's climate impact by doing contrail avoidance. And if you scroll down on the page, what you're going to see is a contrail map. Well, it's actually right there in the menu. Contrails have a substantial warming effect on the climate, and it shows you exactly why. Yes, it does a little bit of solar radiation management by reflecting sunlight away, but underneath that contrail, you can see that long wave radiation cannot escape back to space. And that means that it is a net warming effect. So how do they go about fixing that? Keep on scrolling. It gets crazier. Breakthrough Energy is a Bill Gates company, by the way. Only 5% of their planes have to adjust their routes to have a significant climate impact benefit, meaning if we avoid making clouds at night, but we make them during the day, then we can cool the planet. The airline industry will get carbon credits instead of being carbon taxed. This is the true story that they don't want you to know about. Keep scrolling a little further and you're going to see something pretty darn interesting. Skip that part, and there it is. Explore the map. Start exploring. Let's see if this works for you. Yep, begin exploring, and there you go. Cooling contrails, warming contrails, and you can zoom in on that. Is just it's still loading up right now, but it'll show you the red and the blue areas. Hit Control Plus, like make it bigger or something. Hit F11. Yeah, so you can like just hit continue on that, get it out of the way. But all the red ones, those are your chemtrails, people. Those are contrails that are heating up the planet, according to them. And you can see them right there. Avoiding contrail impact. This is the story nobody actually wants to talk about. And by adjusting your altitude and avoiding, just like I showed you with that contrail finder plugin, different altitudes, different effects, whether they're persistent or not. Blue is cooling, orange is warming. They have said since 2010, we want less warming, more cooling contrails predictable for operational planning. I've been right since 2010. I testified to this fact at the EPA in Washington, D.C. on C-SPAN with this face, much skinnier, by the way. I'm right. I'm going to pull up a Rush Limbaugh. I'm right 99.8% of the time, and the other 0.2% of the time is just because I can't prove it. This has been the gig all along, and I think that the airline industry loves it when you call them chemtrails, because at the end of the day, everybody's looking for the needle in the haystack, and they're ignoring the haystack. They're looking for one or two secret government planes. David Key said he only needed 14. He said that in 2010. He said it again in 2024. Now he's not even saying big ass planes at 70,000 feet. He's saying, I'll do it with 14 private jets. If I can start small, just let me start. So the point I'm trying to make is this: while we're busy looking for the 14 to let's be outrageous. Let's say 1,000 planes. There's 150,000 flights per day in the world. Let's be realistic, okay? When you're talking 45 million flights per year last year, and we're trying to focus on where the secret pumps and pipes are, though nobody's ever been able to prove that any of these exist. I've seen every photo of a pump and pipe. I know them all by name. I've shook their tailpipes and then told you exactly where those photos came from. I'm done playing in the kiddie pool with the chemtards and the chemicals. This whole narrative that contrails do not exist, we need to have a grow up session real quick and realize that the only ones benefiting from this is the airline industry and the geoengineers that want to take advantage of planes making clouds. Let's keep this simple. Keep it simple, stupid. Airplanes make clouds. Clouds are bad. Why? I like sunlight. You don't have to be a freaking scientist. You don't have to be a PhD. Although I did get my PhD at TSC. For those who don't know, I'm just going to flex my credentials for a moment. I got my post hole diggers at Tractor Supply Company. So since I have, since Dr. Lee's in the house, I just want to make sure that everybody understands that you don't have to talk like a scientist to make sense on this. All you've got to do is say, I don't like planes making clouds. It's really that simple. Don't like dig into it. Don't, if you're gonna go get in your politician's face, say, I'm sick and tired of planes making clouds and blocking out the sun. And you know what? You just said it very simple. You didn't say anything that can be disputed whatsoever. Now, when you go up to them and say, everything I'm seeing up here, it comes from pumps and pipes. It's a secret government program. It's climate engineering.
That's what they want you to be saying.
It's stratospheric aerosol injection, man. And then the first question, if the guy has a brain, he's going to go, but clouds don't form in the stratosphere. Like ever. Like that's not a thing. Clouds don't happen in the stratosphere. You do know that, right? They're like, when you get in the stratosphere, it gets drier and it gets warmer very quickly. It's called an inversion. So quit trying to sound so damn smart. A lot of you. Just quit it. Just give up. You're not me. You'll never be me. You could try to study. Fine. I want you to study. I want people to get educated on this. I don't have a lot of hope for a lot of you. I'm just being honest with you. I'm not an elitist, but I live in the finest double wide trailer the Illuminati ever paid for. And as a person with a PhD from Tractor Supply Company, I'm here to tell you, keep it simple, stupid. Just say, I don't like planes making clouds. Clouds piss me off. Clouds are filled with metals. The metals come from planes. Don't speculate on where they're coming from planes. It's very easy. And that will save you a lot of shame, especially on the internet, because trolls love to mock you people. Even the pilots are mocking you at this point. I've interviewed like close to 40 pilots, and they're literally, and people don't believe this. Like I saw it on X the other day. The guy shows me this video, and this dude's like showing like a small plane, and he's got a sticker on the tank, and it says chemtrail tank. And then he goes inside of his cockpit, and he's got a switch, and it literally says chemtrails on off. And it took me less than 5 seconds. And I went to ebay.com and I typed chemtrail switch. And it was the exact one from the video. So like they will go and they'll buy like there's an entire website of pilots like who sell swag to each other about chemtrails, like chemtrail patches, fake chemtrail stickers that they can just put on their dashboard, on the cockpit, all kinds of chemtrail switches. So it's like they've been threatened. People are threatening to kill them all the time. There are people telling them you should die for crimes against humanity because you're poisoning the whole planet. At some point, either you let it drive you insane or you become part of the joke. So like the pilots at this point are going, I know damn well I don't have a switch for chemtrails. I don't know why these crazy people keep harassing me. But at this point, I'd rather laugh than cry. And the more bold ones out there are literally just like being funny as hell about. I mean, I'm laughing at least. You see in the comments people losing their freaking minds, but dumb people gonna dumb, and they're not even smart enough to Google chemtrail switch and see that the switch. I can buy one of these for like, I should just, I should buy all of the switches and keep them here at the house. And then that way, when I'm talking about this stuff, I can use them as props. I'm going to do that when I build my studio. I'm going to create a chemtrail switchboard behind me because I'm trying to build a studio in my backyard right now. And I will buy all the switches. Email me, jim@climateviewer.com. I'm going to do a GoFundMe to try to build a studio, pay my bills for the year, and anything I have left over, I'm going to buy decorations of chemtrail switches to stick on the wall. so that I could literally just point them out. I'll go grab them, bring up here, like, yeah, this is the one from the video you saw. It's really become such a running joke that it's not funny at the same time. And years ago, I tried to ride the fence. I tried to go, well, the CIA did weather warfare in Vietnam. The CIA did weather warfare over Cuba. The CIA, John Brennan, was at the Council on Foreign Relations talking about stratospheric aerosol injection. The CIA funded the climate intervention study in 2018. That all the scientists, where they renamed it from geoengineering to climate engineering to climate intervention. The CIA interviewed Dr. Alan Robach and, asked him, if another country was geoengineering over America, would we know about it? And Alan said, probably. And at the same time, I was thinking to myself that the CIA agents, there were two of them, they were asking me that if we were geoengineering over another country, would they know about it? So I call them the Climate Intelligence Agency for a reason. If anybody is actually able to get up to 60, 70,000 feet, guess who it is? It's the intel agencies. And if anybody's got a dog in this race to actually pull off a geoengineering program on the secret, it's the CIA. But that has nothing to do with Delta Airlines, bro. That's my point. Like, two things can be true simultaneously. Secret government programs have happened, will happen again. Zinc cadmium sulfide spraying all across America. Look it up. Operation Large Area Coverage. Go to my website. I wrote the article in 2013. It was a conspiracy. Military's experiments on unsuspecting public. From 1952 to 1973, 75, the U.S. Army Chemical Corps was spraying radioactive zinc cadmium sulfide all over America, simulating nuclear fallout. They said it was perfectly safe and effective, but they kept it a secret until 2008. Kind of like the JFK files that we're getting right now. They kept it a secret for 65 years. Now, that was probably I'm just imagining the CIA probably had something to do with it, but it was the U.S. Army Chemical Corps and the Air Force spraying radioactive material all over America. So is there a possibility that chemtrails are going on right now? Sure. But that doesn't explain how I could accurately, for the last 10 years, predict when planes are going to make clouds over my house. I can grab my Nikon P900. It's got an 83 times optical zoom. I can read the tail number on the plane and check it against the flight tracker. I know what altitude it's flying at. I can check what the radio sign says. And then I can go, yeah, that one should be making clouds. Damn. All right. What about that one? No, that one should be making clouds too. If you want to prove that you are looking at chemtrails, it is very simple. Grab that contrail finder plugin. It's made for idiots. You don't have to understand atmospheric science. You literally have to go to windy.com, download a plugin, click on your location. And then grab a flight tracker, walk outside. And here's what I dare anybody in the world to do. Have two cameras. Have your phone and have a camera. Videotape the chemtrail. Show the contrail finder plugin. And then show the flight tracker. If you can show a plane flying through the sky that isn't in a contrail forming region, they're called ice supersaturated regions, ISSRs. If it's not in a contrail forming region and you can show the altitude of that plane and it's making a big ass white line, you just videotaped Bigfoot. Nobody in the world has ever done this.
They said the Trump administration's declassifying all of this stuff. So, hey, maybe we'll get declassified documents about it.
I would love to have it. I mean, I just found out, like, in the JFK files, the name of the operation associated with the weather warfare attacks on Cuba. And this came through in the JFK files where they were talking about using biological agents to destroy agriculture in Cuba under Operation Mongoose. Now, given This is 1961, 62 that they're referencing in the JFK files. And by all accounts, and where's my book at? My book's moved. The U.S. Air Force Historical Journal basically just put an article out in summer of last year where they admitted to a lot of the stuff that I've been talking about, and they brought up the Cuba thing specifically, but nobody's ever given it a name. We know in Vietnam it's called Operation Popeye and Project Popeye. We don't know the name of the project that happened in Cuba. But in the JFK files, they're talking about Operation Mongoose. And in it, they specifically mentioned the CIA using chemical and biological agents to destroy Castro's crops. What was the purpose of the weather warfare over Vietnam, or over Cuba? They were causing it to rain in the ocean to make clouds barren so that when they traveled over the island, it would not rain on the island, to destroy Castro's sugar and other crops. So that's too damn coincidental. And the CIA were doing it. And I have newspaper articles from the time from, Lowell Pont, who was talking about our goal was to do a rain embargo. Now, that is weather warfare for economic purposes to destabilize the Castro regime. Same stuff that's being talked about in the JFK files. So was the weather warfare over Cuba a continuation of Operation Mongoose, or did they go and change the name and it's a separate, I can't say for certain. But Hemp Car says, fact checker said they can't see hurricanes yet, quietly admitted in journals. Exactly. And now that you said that, I gotta find it. Hold on a second. Is it? Yeah, it's right here.
Quite lively, Jim. You bring out a large audience over there on the X. Anyway, people are very interested in this topic as it's getting more and more mainstream with the passage of the law there in Tennessee, which they say they can't enforce because it's federal. Real quick before we continue on this thread, what do you think of the new Trump EPA? Lee Zeldin in there saying we're done with the Green New scam, we're done with climate change.
Yes.
Is this going to make a difference? Is it going to make a difference?
Yes and no. I mean, it'll make a small difference. Let's be realistic. You got to temper your expectations, because a lot of this stuff, as
it seems embedded institutionally almost at this point.
Yeah, I mean, like, there are so many NGOs. Like, saying that it's the government's fault at this point isn't even really the issue. I mean, the global warming started really with the Jasons. Have you ever heard of them? MITRE Corporation. Well, anyway, the Jason Group, really, they're a think tank from the MITRE Corporation of like the brightest scientists in the world. They came up with brilliant ideas like motion detectors on the Ho Chi Minh Trail so they could go bomb some Viet Cong. Failed miserably, by the way. But one of the things that they did was they were the main proponents inside the government about global warming. One of the chairmen of the Jason Group, which is a super secret society, no lists really have ever been publicized of the Jason Group, but we know for a fact that Dr. William Happer was one of the chairmen of the Jason Group. Isn't it interesting that Dr. William Happer went and founded CO2coalition.org, which is the greatest website on the entire internet for debunking the CO2 narrative? So he was inside when they were pushing this to the government, and now he's on the outside saying, no, it's 100% bullshit, and CO2 is plant food. So if you go to co2coalition.org/facts, this is not coming from some quack. This is coming from the top climate scientist in the United States, backed up by other geniuses like Dr. Willie Soon, Dr. Judith Curry. There are too many scientists who broke with the narrative and told the truth about this. We know this to be true. We hold these truths to be self-evident that CO2 is plant food. Cow farts smell funny. Anyway, so I guess back to this weather warfare thing. Guy says about hurricanes. Now, I'm a bit of a collector, and so is my friend Dominic Marama. He's my partner in crime on weathermodificationhistory.com. So he found this little jewel on eBay for $300. I think it's pretty expensive for something that thick, but this is the original Project Cirrus report from General Electric published November 1952. Project Cirrus was one of the first experiments on steering hurricanes. This was literally, cloud seeding was invented in November of 1946, and by October of 1947, 11 months later, they went out and they tried to steer a tropical storm. Oops, it turned into a hurricane, and then it changed directions 180 degrees and slammed into Savannah, Georgia. And they had to tell Irving Langmuir to shut his mouth and quit telling people about it because they would end up with a whole bunch of liability. This was the first hurricane experiments. But in this, and this doesn't even exist, just so you know. This is a PDF we found online. And because me and Dominic are really dorks, we both sprung to actually print a copy of it. This is the largest article ever written in the history of the Journal of the Air Force Historical Foundation. And in it, they talk about the true history of weaponized weather over Southeast Asia, as you can see here, and perception versus reality. Now, this is written by David Reed from P3 Publications in, again, the Journal of Air Force Historical Foundation. In this, which you can find a PDF copy of it on weathermodificationhistory.com, they say very specifically that the CIA was involved in Project Storm Fury in a smaller subgroup that they didn't really tell anybody that what their plans were, and that Project Storm Fury was a NOAA test on steering hurricanes. So NOAA was involved in this for, I want to say, about 20 years total, something like that. All this is in my timeline. But in that personal accounting, with all of the details, they say not only were they doing the rain embargo that I mentioned earlier, keeping rain from going to the island, they were, and I cannot even believe this is written in that book, creating hurricanes and then steering them into Cuba. That the CIA was using Project Storm Fury to steer hurricanes into Cuba to destroy Castro's crops and destabilize the region. That's a hell of a claim. I have never seen a claim like that anywhere else, and I would totally discount it if it weren't the fact that it's David Reed writing it in a U.S. Air Force journal. So that's not some kind of like conspiracy rag. And I deal with high quality sources like that. And even then, I still have to put my, BS detector hat on. Was I lied to before, or is this the new lie? Because with the CIA, there's always levels to propaganda. So this could actually be, and I'm inclined to believe that it's more than likely true based on fact checking, the information in it against what I already knew to be true. And then with the new sources of information that are in there, being able to third party check that as well. So I'm still like going through all 60 pages of this and reviewing it with, a fine tooth comb, but it's a hell of an accusation and it's coming from a hell of a source. So the point being to all this, yes, the military is going to do weather warfare. They've done it in the past. Those who forget the past are doomed to repeat it. Do I think there's a possibility that there is some kind of rogue geoengineering program going on? More than likely. Can I prove that? No. Can you prove that? No. But what I can prove beyond a shadow of a doubt is that there's 45 million flights going on every single year, and I can predict with a 95% certainty when those clouds are going to be there and when they're not. So that's like basic redneck atmospheric science. It's reproducible, predictable. It passes the sniff test. So I'm going to focus on the haystack. And eventually, if we deal with the haystack, the only thing left will be the needle.
And Jim, everybody should ask themselves the question, if there's really this clandestine dark project going on for the last 20, 30 years, somebody somewhere would have said something, don't you think? And they, because the argument, well, they kept, the Manhattan Project secret for all these years, but not this long. You know what I mean?
I mean, the thing about the Manhattan Project was, compartmentalization. So one dude's over there is like, what do you do? I make metal tubes. What are you building? I don't know. I make metal tubes and then I stick them through that window. I don't know what's going on next door. And that makes sense. That makes sense in theory. But even with like Project and Operation Popeye, they did weather warfare for 5 years over Vietnam. I want to keep this in mind. There were like 19 people that did the whole project. From the top brass who knew about it to the people flying the planes and operating them. Even some of the people who were on the planes didn't even know what the hell they were doing. Okay? So in total, there was about 19 people involved in the whole project. That's saying a lot, bro. So this is different than literally every single plane on the planet. Oh, but wait, there's a NATO pipeline committee. What does the NATO pipeline committee do, Jim? Well, they set the fuel standards. Well, what does that got to do with anything, Jim? Well, when NATO sets a mil spec, standard for, like, say, NATO F40 jet fuel, well, the commercial ASTM side, they kind of mirror whatever the military side has. And by the way, they don't use JPA jet fuel anymore. The military uses Jet A or Jet A1, whichever is available, plus additives. So basically, all of the standards are set, and suddenly every plane's flying on pretty much the same crap. And then the military puts their own special additives in, HITS additive, high thermal stability additive, metal deactivators, static dissipators. There's all kinds of additives they put in there. And I'm always hearing new ones like that are absolutely crazy. Like, these biofuels with crushed aluminum nanoparticles for, higher performance. It's kind of like the muscle heads who get the octane booster and they put it in their car. You've seen them in the gas station. Don't lie. Everybody's seen them. It says octane booster for high performance, man. Well, they've got that stuff too. Just recently, somebody was asking about carbon filaments that they were finding. And I was like, I wouldn't be surprised if they put carbon nanotubes in there. Let me go to Grok real quick and just ask it. Anything on that? And it's like, yeah, here's like 5 peer-reviewed science journal entries on putting carbon nanotubes in jet fuel to increase fuel engine performance. I'm never surprised anymore at the crazy stuff that they're putting in jet fuel.
So more likely than a secret program, we have a major problem with pollution from air travel.
I say
I like that argument a lot better, because that's a lot more, like you say, I don't like the planes blocking out the sun because I'm trying to grow my garden over here.
Yeah, and I believe if you want to believe that you actually have a organic garden, it might be good to know what's in your rain and what's coming down on your house. Now that you got to be pragmatic even about that. You got to rule out local pollution sources. Like if you live next to a paint plant or somebody who makes PVC for a living and you live downwind of that or an airport, and you don't rule that out before you immediately start blaming planes that are like 5 to 6 freaking miles over your head, maybe you should like rethink things. I'm trying to be nice here, okay? But at the same time, discounting the fact that planes are, 45 million planes a year, just unbelievable amounts of nanoparticles. how many get diluted on the way down? Dilution is the solution to pollution. I get it. I get the arguments. But really, at the end of the day, when you're talking about nanoparticles, really, the last time I checked, because I wanted to create a climate viewer for my backyard and, then be able to make one for everybody where you could test your own rainfall in real time in your backyard. When I checked it and when I came up with the idea would cost about close to $1 million. But I checked, literally somebody just called me out of the blue and was like, hey, I got a friend that really, has got a lot of money. You might want to throw some money at this. And I was like, well, I haven't looked into it for a while. So I checked and I started hitting up all the AIs and I can do it for now $50,000. That's a hell of an improvement in 10 years to go from $1 million equipment to $50,000 to be able to measure in parts per billion in a water sample. We're not there yet, but pretty soon we will. So it's still one of those cases where to be able to measure nanoparticles and measure how much of this chemicals from these planes are reaching us at the ground, infecting our food, we really have to rely on. And trust me, bro, is not a thing I really work on. I don't work well with that. You know what I mean? Like sending my sample to somebody else and then they're like, here's the results. Trust me, bro. I'm not cool with that. So,
well, you don't trust the science. That's a problem.
I just don't trust anybody. I trust my wife.
Jim,
I don't even trust my daughters, bro.
Jim, what do we even need AI? Because now I saw this story and I did a little bit of searching, just a little bit, and our audience will appreciate this. I found who's this? This is phys.org. They say fully AI driven weather prediction system delivers accurate forecasts faster with less computing power. Do we need this?
I have that.
You have it?
Yeah, I already ran it.
Our audience are going to kick because they know the secret code words. Let me just read this quickly. A new AI weather prediction system, Aardvark Weather, can deliver accurate forecasts tens of times faster and using thousands of times less computing power. Because we use Aardvark as a code word here for a group that you can't talk about. So.
Oh, okay. I get it.
It's an inside joke here for us, but I read that I was like, Aardvark Weather, huh?
So that's not the one that I'm using. Like
a bunch is coming out. There
have been
days.
several of them. There have been several. Right now, I think we're up to 12 different. These aren't public, by the way. These are for the big institutions. And basically, the first one that really made waves was about 2 years ago, and it was able to make more accurate predictions than it did it on the. Normally, you would need 100,000 server racks working in tandem to run these physics simulations of what the climate is. And this program was able to do it on a single server rack in a quarter of the time. And this was like one of the first AI weather prediction systems. And it was more accurate than the big ass NOAA systems and National Weather Service systems. So like AI is really revolutionizing the understanding and the ability to quantify all of these data variables. Really, the problem isn't even crunching the numbers at this point. It's about getting more numbers. We don't have very accurate information on what's in the sky, what the chemicals are up there, what all the conditions are, because we're still relying on, things like weather balloons that are thrown twice a day. I mean, literally like 12 hours apart, they throw a weather balloon up in the air. Then it's got a GPS on it. Some dude gets in a car and goes and finds the balloon. When it lands, they bring it back because they don't want to have to buy a new radio sign. And then they go throw it in the air again 12 hours later. I don't think that capturing data 12 hours apart is really good science. I mean, we should be able to like literally tell what's going on in the atmosphere at all levels at all times. And then you could make super accurate predictions. So For anybody who doesn't believe me and you trust the climate science that, in 50, 100 years, they know what the hell is going to go on, just take your phone out and grab your little weather app and look at your 7-day forecast. I want you to take a screenshot of it today. And then tomorrow, I want you to take a screenshot and the next day till finally you hit that 7th day. See how accurate they were 7 days out, and do this for a month. And then you will never trust anything on that 7th day ever again. So if the weather people cannot predict what's going to happen 7 days from now, why the hell would you trust any of these climate scientists? Why would you trust anybody that says that they can control the weather? The weather is chaos. It is chaos theory. It is not control theory. He who controls the weather will control the world. How about let's let God control the weather and stay the hell out of it? That's my personal opinion. Maybe you don't believe in God. Maybe you believe in Gaia. Screw it. Gaia controls the weather, not man. I don't trust any human on this planet with my children. I don't trust anybody with my money. Why the hell would I trust any person with the entire world's weather, let alone my local weather? Nobody should.
If we don't get to net zero, it's going to go to 1.5.
Oh God. But let's be realistic. For at least 75 years.
How can they predict that another 25 years into the future here now?
The funny thing about it is,
well, they changed it a little bit because it used to be 2030, and then they kind of said 2050, and it's kind of like
push it back, keep
pushing a little bit.
When Al Gore's inconvenient lies didn't happen, they just kept moving the needle back. Just shove it back. But we're going into a grand solar minimum, so I think it's really going to put a chill pill on their whole heat game. So as the sun tends to fizzle out after 2030. And that's why they're really pushing this 2030 thing. Because by 2050, we're going to be smack dab, and it's going to be like 2032 is going to really be, it's going to get cold pretty quickly. And then and that's supposed to last until 2053 with weakening of the magnetic field and all of that, because the sun's going to be petering out. So I think that they know that the jig is about up and that it's going to rapidly cool. And if I'm a conspiracy theorist, if you want me to be scary, the government knows this. And what they're really trying to do is they want to get out there and they want to geoengineer the planet, because heat doesn't kill people. Cold kills people. And if you can rapidly cool the planet by covering the entire sky and blocking out the sun, all it's going to take is one volcano, and you'll all be frozen to death in your homes. Now that's some nefarious crap. But I'm not going to be that guy. So, maybe you should look into the grand solar minimum and see how it aligns with Agenda 2030 and 2050. Lines up pretty darn good. And these climate clocks. So the clock's ticking because guess what? It's about to get cold, real cold. And we'll be able to roll this tape back. And I'm going to go, I was talking to Sam and it was 2025 and now it's 2032. I'm going to go play that tape where I told everybody this was going to happen. Because guess what? I'll still be here. Regardless.
Should we be selling sweaters right now?
You should be collecting wool. You should be making fire starters. I don't know. I don't think
but it kind of went right in the 70s with a Leonard Nimoy commercial. It went global cooling.
Yeah, they flip-flopped and
then in the 80s, 90s is like, it's still cooling. But then we hit global warming.
And they're like, next ice age right around the corner. But global warming, we're all gonna fry.
And then they just said climate change. Any change in the weather whatsoever is due to CO2 emissions because of man is where we're at now. But I now see the new trend of any weather is extreme weather. And so it's still the CO2, though we're bad for CO2 emissions.
You want to know what's funny about that one is that Judith Curry was the one who originally wrote the paper, Climate Change is Causing hurricanes to be more intense and more frequent. Judith Curry, a couple years later, was also the one to debunk her own paper and say, no, I was completely full of crap. That's not true at all. And they still to this day run with this. Anytime there's a hurricane, they go, but my climate change, but my cow farts. You're the problem.
It made it worse.
And there is no correlation between heat changes in the planet and frequency or intensity of hurricanes. In fact, just recently when Obama became president, we went on a 10-year hurricane drought where no major hurricane made landfall in America. You can't make this stuff up. And then Trump came into office, and the first thing he did was ban the Paris Climate Accord. On day one, I voted for that. Promises made, promises kept. And he did it again. But anyway, isn't it ironic that literally there was a 10-year hurricane drought, Trump gets elected, cancels the Paris Climate Accord, and then 3 hurricanes hit all the rednecks in the South that voted for his ass. I know, because I'm one of them. I'm in South Carolina, and we got hit with 3 freaking hurricanes in 2016, ending the hurricane drought they were all bragging about. So if climate change is causing more extreme and more frequent weather events like hurricanes, riddle me this. Why in 2008 was there a Department of Homeland Security hurricane modification workshop that came on the heels of the 2005 Hurricane Katrina disaster that said that the Department of Homeland Security should do hurricane mitigation to prevent hurricanes from making landfall to prevent the next Katrina in 2008? And then for 10 years, there were no hurricanes making landfall until Trump came along. That's too damn coincidental, in my personal opinion. Maybe that's my own personal conspiracy theory, but I don't believe in coincidences. So they can continue to push on their narrative, and I'll push back with Hurricane Helene was never a hurricane. It was a tropical storm. Why? Because that's what all of the METAR data actually said. It never even made it to a Category 1 hurricane. So that's a really weird thing for every meteorologist on the planet to be shouting from the hilltops how strong and intense Hurricane Helene was, when we're looking at the wind meters in real time going, this doesn't even make it to a Cat 1 on the Saffir-Simpson scale. What the hell is going? And we're like all messaging each other going, you seeing this? Yeah, I'm seeing this too. You seeing this? I'm seeing this too. Yo, weather dude on X, what the hell are you guys talking about? Well, that's what the National Weather Service told us to say. It's literally, even
So
the weather is propaganda.
Hurricane Helene was actually a hoax.
It was a tropical storm.
Not a hurricane.
Even before it made landfall. Now, it's normal for a hurricane to rapidly weaken once it makes landfall. But to be in the warm Gulf of America, where heat should only intensify the storm until it makes landfall, it had not even made landfall, and it was not even a Category 1 on any of the wind meters. They're called METAR stations, METAR. You can still go back and look this data up. You can go fact check me on this. Go look it up yourself. All this stuff is archived. And we were looking at like local airports, all along the coast of Florida, all inland even further. Like none of them even registered as a Category 1. And we did a video on it and literally showed all that information. You can go to Stella Q Australia on YouTube. Stella is one of my administrators in my climate viewer chat. And her and Jeff, the other admin, the Navy meteorologist, they were going through hurricanes Helene and Milton. and showing all the oddities of what was going on. And one of the most blatant, obvious oddities was, what the hell? It wasn't even a hurricane. Helene never made it to hurricane strength, but everybody said it was. So I got a lot of questions about, what the hell's going on with even just NOAA and the National Weather Service and the information they put out. I mean, we're getting to the point where we're faking hurricanes. It's getting really weird.
What about Barry's making the point? What about when you see? I'm sure you've seen the video. I've seen it in person, watching the sky, watching a plane, and one of them has no trail or very little one, and then another plane, same day, same time, everything. The other one has a giant trail across the sky. What about this? Is that just due to them being at different elevations?
Yeah, you saw it yourself. You saw it yourself. That's called it's called the Schmidt-Appelman criterion. It's been used since World War II. Okay, Jeff's job on a U.S. Air Force, U.S. Navy aircraft carrier was to prepare a flight report for like the F-14 Tomcats, the F-18 Hornets, to tell them, here are the areas and altitudes that if you fly, you're going to leave a persistent contrail. And if you do that, our enemies are going to see a big white stripe in the sky that leads us right back to the aircraft carrier. And that's a bad idea. So I want you to fly at this altitude and avoid this area, and you will not create a contrail. That's called contrail avoidance. So the same is true with, if you see two planes and they look like they're flying side by side, they're supposed to keep a minimum of 1,000 feet, but typically a 5,000 foot difference in altitude if they're in proximity to each other. 5,000 feet, for those who aren't familiar with it, that's about a mile. That's a big damn difference. So in a lot of cases, what you will see planes in the sky, and being able to judge their altitude just based on seeing them is next to impossible. I mean, it's just physically impossible. If you think you can tell the difference between 5 and 6 miles, or even like 5.5 and 6 miles difference, we're talking a couple thousand feet difference. But even in the example that you were looking at on that windy.com plugin, you can look at radio sound data. I'll show you the sciencey version behind the plugin, like where the data actually comes from. And you can see the temperature on one side and the dew point depression. And as you go up into altitude where they start to get close together like this, that's where the contrails are going to form. But then it might widen for a second and then go close again, and widen for a second and go close again. So in that area, if it's, much, even a couple degrees, even 10 degrees warmer, 5 degrees warmer, or 5% less relative humidity in that area, plane's not going to make any contrails. Not going to leave a line at all. May leave a very short line. May leave a somewhat long line. That's why it even says like long linear contrails, short-lived contrails, long persistent contrails at different altitudes, all on the same chart. People don't want to believe this stuff. Hey, I don't care. That's your thing. You do you. I like, fairy tales and gumdrops also, and unicorns, farting rainbows.
But the point is, we're never going to ever get to a solution to actually a legitimate campaign against pollution when we're chasing the unicorns farting rainbows.
Right. And I mean, it's fun. Like if you do this for fun, fine. Have fun, have a good time. Appreciate you. Everybody has a right to, either enjoy this as entertainment, you're addicted to fear, you just want to have fun. Have your jollies, man. I'm an activist. I'm trying to be pragmatic. I can recognize that there are secret government programs. There have been in the past, that there probably are today. But when I can prove beyond a shadow of a doubt to myself, don't give a damn about your opinion, but when I can prove it to myself, and I can teach my 15-year-old daughter this, My 15-year-old daughter knows more about contrails and how they form than 90% of you motherfuckers on the internet, okay? So we can predict them. We know. I'm like, what's that? That's Cirrus Homo mutatus. Go ahead, girl. You know them big old science words for what that's actually called. Anyway, being able to know this stuff, it's not for everybody. I get it. That's why I try to keep it simple. Here's a Windy plugin. At least you can go look at it and then you can go, you know what? This is just made up by somebody to lie to me, to make me believe that, to hide what the CIA is doing. No, dude. It's just been science that's been proven for a long time. The problem is nobody trusts science anymore. Why would you trust science? I just told you global warming is fake, right? That the Rona stuff was fake. It was not safe and effective. So we have a crisis of faith in science. Rightfully deserved.
All institutions due to the corruption are about ready to collapse because no one trusts them. And all these institutions over the whole medical intervention period, right after it, about halfway through, all said, our problem is we have lost trust. The public has lost trust in us. We need to regain trust. And we see that in all these institutions. One quick explain, people are asking the question, explain the contrail that dissipates and turns the whole sky overcast.
Okay. So using the term chemtrail or contrail is kind of like both of them are misconceptions. A cloud is a trail of chemicals that water condensates on. So basically it is a chemical contrail. Okay, let's be real. Water is a chemical. All the chemicals, all the particles coming out of the plane, the exhaust, those are chemicals. So we have a whole lot of chemicals. Okay, we all agree they're all chemicals. But sometimes they form linear contrails and then they disappear. Why? Not enough water condensed on that material to make ice that then spread out and became a cirrus cloud. But in an ice supersaturated region, when you scroll down and you saw the numbers where the check marks were, that's called ice supersaturation, which means that there's enough available water that it more than likely will make a persistent contrail. And once you actually have that, I saw the flight tracking question. I want to jump on that because I got my favorite. I've got my favorites. Everybody's got their favorite. Mine's globe.adsbexchange.com. But the point is, if you have an ice supersaturated region and you're at the right altitude, it's neither a chemtrail nor a contrail. It's not a persistent contrail. I hate that term. Once it fans out and it covers the sky, it is now a cirrus cloud. Just like a cumulus cloud is the big cotton fluffy clouds that make rain. That's called a cumulonimbus cloud. Up at high altitude, those are ice clouds. And ice clouds are called cirrus clouds. What kind of cirrus clouds? Like the ones right here on this thing, Project Cirrus. So once a plane's clouds fan out and block out the sun, it is no longer a chemtrail or a contrail or a persistent contrail. It became a cirrus cloud. And once you understand that, then you're actually going to start making sense. If you don't believe me, go to scholar.google.com and put these terms in. Contrail-induced cirrus. Aviation-induced cloudiness. That's the most popular term, by the way, amongst scientists. Aviation-induced cloudiness. Last check, it was close to like 10,000 peer-reviewed science journal entries just on that. So they got a lot of different terms. I've got them all listed right here on my climateviewer.com/cirrus clouds matter. Chemtrails, contrails, persistent contrails, spreading contrails, contrail cirrus, contrail-induced cirrus, contrail-induced cloudiness, aviation-induced cloudiness, aviation-induced cirrus, induced cirrus cloudiness, and then I added man-made clouds, artificial clouds. What does artificial mean? Not natural, man-made. So artificial clouds is where I land. Planes make artificial clouds that block out the sun and screw with the weather and the climate, the temperature. It's really that simple. Now, for all the people that are like, Jim, you're full of crap. It's not jet fuel. It's not contrails. Okay, bro, you do you. I'm doing this because I've spent years researching this. I mean, I'm going on like 15 years just on chemtrails. I did weather modification, cloud seeding, and HARRP for 5 years until finally I started to get really popular and people started going, how come you never talk about chemtrails, Jim? And I was like, oh, Jesus Christ, they're really not going to leave this alone. I'm going to have to talk about, that's perfect. Where'd you get that? That's FAA.gov. Hate them. Terrible.
but they say exactly aviation induced. I think it may be just a problem with semantics, honestly.
It is all semantics.
We know this phenomenon is happening, right? I mean, you can witness it with your own. No one can deny that this is happening. It's just the terminology that we're using is getting people hung up on it, I think.
Right, because if you say the word chemtrails, it really...
That triggers conspiracy theory, and then that turns people off and shuts down the debate.
So this is what I wrote, and I wrote this a long time ago, about 10 years ago. This is what I wrote. If you remove all the slave speak from the debate, chemtrails and contrails are both terms referring to clouds made by jet aircraft. Slave speak is language that maintains a master-slave relationship. They are high-level descriptors. High-level descriptors are things like good, evil, God, government, vaccines. They mean different things to different people based on different scenarios. So what's good for you, I might consider it evil. Does that make sense? But coffee cup, pencil, microphone, we all know what these are. These are called low-level descriptors. We're not going to argue about what they mean. It's low-level language. So the problem is when we're talking about slave speak is people using high-level descriptors when they should be breaking it down to low-level descriptors. The simplicity of the argument is anytime somebody uses some science jargony word and they want to try to, oh, you don't understand what the hell I'm saying because I'm using big words. Well, if you can't explain it to me like I'm a 5-year-old, then clearly you don't understand it well enough. So you have to force people to bring the language down to your level. And when you're using terms like chemtrails, they're loaded. So then I wrote this. I choose to use the term contrail when talking to scientists because using the word chemtrail may cause them to discount the value of my words when I'm talking to. I choose to use the term chemtrail when engaging with the public because using the word contrail tends to get you labeled as a debunker and may cause them to discount the value of my words. Now, I wrote that 10 years ago. The only difference between that Jim Lee and the Jim Lee today is I'm not playing your games anymore. Like, I'm not trying to kiss butt and ride the fence. Both chemtrails and contrails are high-level descriptors, meaning they are highly argumentative and have different meanings based on the individual. And that is the truth. So whenever you talk to people, the most common response I get when doing a perception audit, which is part of the mind control apparatus of perception management, I do a perception audit and I say, what do you think about this? They say, my definition is contrails disappear, chemtrails stick around. And if you haven't heard that, you haven't talked to anybody who talks about chemtrails. That's the most basic argument they make. The problem is it falls apart under scrutiny. It is easily debunked. So why would you choose to engage in using conversation? Yeah, that's right. I'm the CIA clone. you gotta pin that one for a second, dude. That's worth it. Oh, Karen, you're so funny. Yeah, it's true. It's true. Like, this new version of Jim Lee was programmed using artificial intelligence at the CIA to convert your brains. I'm here to steer you the wrong way. I want to take all your, I don't need your money because I'm paid by the CIA now. So damn, what am I see, I'm already off the script. I suck at being a CIA agent, Karen. I just want you to know this. I'm going to try harder to be the agent you deserve. No, I'm not. I put no effort into this whatsoever. You can ask Sam. Sam, did we have any plan on what we were going to talk about today?
Just wing it. I think I sent you a message like EPA and geoengineering.
Yeah, I think I could literally bring that up on the screen for those who don't believe this. But he's like, "Will you come on?" And I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Sure." I gave him a thumbs up, and then he's like, sometime this week. And then like literally yesterday, I was like, how about tomorrow night? Because I just decided, I was like, you know what? Screw it. I might as well do it. If I don't tell him that I'll do it tomorrow night, I'll put it off another week. And I've got 3 other people that are like asking me to come on right now. And then on the 5th, I've got the international panel on geoengineering and weather modification with Christian Oesch from Switzerland. And it's this really big thing. And I mean, there's just too many things going on. So I'm like trying to like, my wife was like, you need to tell people yes more often. Like, quit putting people off. Like, you go into your email and you hit star and you're like, that means I need to respond to this. And then you never get to it. So I was like, all right, I need to go on there and tell Sam right today. Tomorrow night, let's just do this thing.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I wanted to cover the fires too. What about the fires? Because it's the whole climate change thing. They say it's climate change causing the quote wildfires, but then we see they're arresting arsonists. The county is suing the power company for faulty equipment starting these fires. And so we have evidence, hard evidence, they're started by faulty equipment and arsonists, but yet the narrative is it's climate change causing wildfires.
I thought the narrative was it was like Jewish space lasers.
I think that may be the wild conspiracy one. I'm talking about the mainstream from the government.
Yeah, they're always like, but my climate change, and I thought it was freaking hilarious. And this is first term Trump when he went out to California after the wildfires, and he's like, I think that these people really need to understand forestry. They need to take better job of the forest. They're not doing anything with the forest. I don't understand what they're doing out here. Are all these crazy climate cultists? Maybe you should clean up your forest. That's all I'm saying. He was like so right on the money. It's insane.
He said rake the forest, and they all made
rake the forest. I loved it, dude. I was dead. I was like, do you know how wise what he just said was? Because like the indigenous people of, the Oregon, like I can't think of the Indian tribe right now. And I can say Indian because I'm Indian. So screw you guys. Feathers, not dots. Let's get it real. My mother's side, Pawnee and Choctaw, Native American. Anyway, the Indians out there in Oregon, they would, it was part of their culture to constantly burn the forest floor and to preserve the forest floor to prevent large forest fires. But the climate cultists, they don't want that to happen. And on top of that, you have aerial pesticide spraying where you have logging industries that go out and spray herbicides from planes and helicopters to kill all of the broadleaf trees. So short broadleaf trees, which are typically more fire resistant, they kill them. Why? Because tall, straight pine trees are great money for the lumber industry. So let me get this straight. You're going through and you're spraying to kill all of the trees so that you're pretty much creating a monoculture forest. And then the trees that die and then fall on the ground, you just leave them there. Sounds like a tinderbox to me. And then it gets even worse than that. In California, Oregon, oh shit, all over America, they have this thing called hack and squirt, where they literally go up to the tree and all the way around the base of the tree, they take an axe and they hack the bark away from the tree. And then they spray Roundup or other types of really powerful herbicides into the standing tree to kill it. Now, you tell me that's not going to be a deadly fire scenario? I mean, honestly, like, dude, that's like the whole West Coast. And we just saw it happen with the Palisades and all of that. I mean, how many more times do we have to see the same thing repeat before people go, well, why? And I saw this thing go. This is how crazy people are. I got on X, I'm going to work, it's like 8:30 in the morning. I get there, I clock in, I check my Twitter feed, and everybody's like, I hope you're okay, Jim. I'm like, what the hell's going on? They're like, heard about the wildfires in South Carolina, Jim. Hope you're okay. Oh God, they're trying to Lahaina Myrtle Beach. And I'm like, the hell are they talking about? Like, it's impossible to have a wildfire in South Carolina. This is the Garden of freaking Eden over here. Literally, if you dig a 2-foot hole, it will fill with water. I mean, we have all the water in the world, green forest. It is freaking gorgeous here. And I went and I looked at Myrtle Beach, and the fires that were there were in the national forest across the water causeway from Myrtle Beach. And it was like, maybe, I don't know, maybe 50 acres. And people were flipping out online. And I'm going, so somebody was camping, and this is how funny it is. I was going to go burn leaves in my backyard. And my daughter goes up to my wife and says, don't light the leaves on fire. I just heard that there's a, no burn notice going on right now because of high winds. So I didn't light the leaves on fire. And then the next day, everybody's on Twitter going, but my wildfire's all over the place. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. We had that wind warning yesterday and a no burn notice because, high winds, drier conditions, hadn't rained in like 2 weeks. And sure, that sort of stuff's going to happen, but like nothing was damaged. You know what I mean? It like we put it out instantaneously, it was a nothing burger. And it wasn't like even climate arsonists going all around lighting a bunch of fires like you see, the retardation going on. Like the one in Canada where it was like 9 fires like lit up simultaneously, or, all these cases where these arsonists
they did arrest arsonists there.
Yeah. And even with the Lahaina thing, like I was trying to explain to people, I'm like, there's a high pressure ridge that reaches from China to Los Angeles, north of Lahaina. And below that, there's a hurricane. And the wind is coming over the mountain and down it. And that's called a fun effect, FUHN or something like that. And basically what happens is as air rushes down a mountain, it rapidly heats as it comes down the mountain. So you had all of the and then the rest of the air coming over the mountain, it actually creates an eddy where it comes back. This is like in whitewater rafting where you see those tumbles where the water shoots up over the rock and then it creates an eddy where if you get trapped in there in a kayak, you die. That's effectively what happened with Lahaina also. So you got this wind whipping over top, coming back in. Don't believe me? Go back and watch the videos right now for yourself. What you're going to see is a bunch of dudes out in the ocean and their city's on fire, but they're like all of the sailboats, they're flapping towards the island. But then on the island side, you can see things blowing the opposite direction. So literally you had air coming from both directions at the same time. And you can see this on video. So my point was, why has it got to be lasers, bro? I mean, if I wanted to burn that town to the ground under those conditions, $5, a can of gasoline and a couple crack rocks, and a crackhead to go out there and light that thing on fire for me. And you still get the same effect.
People want to say direct energy weapons, paint your roof blue.
I mean, I got this blue shirt on right now because I'm scared of Jewish space lasers. I mean, I'm just telling you, it's facts. Like, just facts, you know? But, you know, when I was in Boy Scouts, we were always taught, you know, if you're ever in doubt and you need to make a fire, you literally just need to call out Jehovah and the Jews will light the fire with their space lasers. That's how we were taught to make fires. I don't even know what to make about it. Is it possible? Sure. Is it a hell of a way to make a fire? I think so.
No, like you say, it's easier just to pay off a crackhead to go throw a match on some dry grass. That's a whole lot easier than
that's what I would do. Like, I mean, that's just me, you know, like, I don't know, maybe I'm the crazy one. But I didn't see any evidence, you know, when looking at the fire damage, everybody's like, oh, what about the melted aluminum cars? And I'm like, do you know what the melting temperature of aluminum is? And they're like, well, that doesn't even make sense. And I'm like, well, that car had a gas tank and the fire's at the back of the car, and that's on the wind blowing side, and you can literally see the melted, you know, magnesium wheels going that way, which is the way the wind was blowing. Like, what part do you know what the temperature of burning gasoline is? That's hotter than the melting point of aluminum. What are we talking about here? Like, it was just so many things. Like, I'm going to just be blunt with you. I'm a skeptic, okay? Like, I don't believe anybody because I don't trust people. And until, like, it passes my bullcrap test, I mean, the slogan on my website, climbviewer.com, where conspiracy meets reality. I'm all about a good conspiracy theory. I love them more than most. But I like my conspiracies to have some reality to it. I'm not going to be engaged in a conversation about flat Earth. Although I've done it many times. Don't get me wrong. I can't help myself. You can take Karen. Karen, we're done with you with the CIA clone. You can take that unpin that if you can ever find it again. But anyway, you know, I go in there and I have my fun with the flat earthers, because, you know, what's honestly true is, I'm going to be blunt, and this is going to sound really crazy. I've talked to some flat earthers on X. They actually make more sense than 99% of the chemtards I talk to, because they're at least trying to use logic and reason. That's sad, bro. I mean, they make more sense in their arguments and at least try to, like, use some kind of scientific method to their madness. And even some of their questions, I'm going, you know, I cannot explain that. Okay? You got me there. I don't understand that well enough. So I'm gonna concede that at this point, I don't have enough evidence to debunk what you're saying. But I still don't believe the world's flat. I think you're retarded. But at least I respect you for really making me and, you know, stumping me. But on this atmospheric science stuff, at this point, like, I know, like, enough about this to go, I can prove this. It's repeatable. I do this all the damn time. I've only twice in 20 years seen a flight making a line in the sky that I could not track. So a lot of people are like, oh, but, you know, the planes in my area, I can't track them. And I'm like, well, I can't verify whether you're saying that is true or not, because I don't live where you live and you didn't record it. So how can I trust you? I don't trust people. I already told you that. I don't know, dude. I mean, at the end of the day, it's one of those things that, like, it's exhausting talking about chemtrails.
We're at 2.5 hours. Thank you for your time here, Jim. Let's wrap up with, you have concrete solutions you're proposing based on treaties that are already on the books, right? Through the United Nations well, tell us about it. What are the solutions to the pollution from aviation.
So the reason why, at least in the case of Tennessee, they're unable to actually do anything about the planes is because the Clean Air Act has a stipulation in it. It's the EPA's Clean Air Act that no state shall set pollution standards that do not mirror those of federal regulations. And because the FAA was empowered by the Department of Transportation to enforce, interstate traffic, no state shall impede interstate traffic as it pertains to aircraft. So you can't tell the planes they can't pollute on a state level. You can't set pollution standards on a state level. It's a federal
They don't
thing.
have jurisdiction.
Yeah, so this is a jurisdiction thing. And I was talking with Monty Fritz about it. I said, you could test it, dude. I would claim 10th Amendment on this. See what the Supreme Court decides on it. I don't know that it's been tested in the past. But at this point, the EPA is at least derelict in its duty to protect citizens, or at least provide credible evidence that citizens are protected from aviation pollution. There have been no public rainfall samples, no soil samples, no evidence collected whatsoever by the EPA since I testified in 2015 to this fact. No public accountability over aviation-induced cloudiness. So, at the very least, the EPA is derelict in its duty under the Clean Air Act, and the Clean Air Act is hamstringing states from being able to do anything about it because the law is very clear. No state shall impede interstate commerce as it pertains to aviation. Translation: even if you ban your chemtrails, you can't tell the Air National Guard to go up there and ground that flight so you can go check out them chemtrail pipes. Even if you could, they're not going to be any chemtrail pipes. And I imagine it like a funny skit from like In Living Color or the Chappelle Show. Like, imagine Dave Chappelle getting pulled over by the Air National Guard. And he's like, damn, y'all always be pulling me over. And I'm just trying to deliver these Amazon packages. Why y'all bugging me, man? Why y'all always got to, bring a black man down? Honestly, like that's what would really happen at the end of the day. They'd ground the flight. They would violate federal law. They'd probably get sued into oblivion. And then after literally tearing the plane apart, they'd be like, there's nothing in here but jet fuel, dudes. Like, we have really screwed up. And these Amazon packages are definitely going to be late. So at the end of the day, this has to be handled on a federal level. Geoengineering has to be handled on a federal level. We have to convince Congress and the Senate to get their feces consolidated and ban geoengineering. And I'm not talking about the planes. That's a whole separate issue. You could probably wrap it in there, but the only way to actually ban geoengineering, and I'm talking about Ken Caldera, David Keith, the Bill Gates and George Soros money flowing to stratospheric aerosol injection. The only way to ban that permanently is on a federal level, and here's why. Mexico banned geoengineering. What you going to do about it, Mexico? You going to throw burritos at China if they decided to geoengineer? If America, as a country, signed a law into and the president signed it and said geoengineering is illegal. In America, if you geoengineer, you will go to jail. If any other country tries to geoengineer and affects weather or climate over American territory, we will consider it a violation of the Environmental Modification Treaty. We will consider it a violation of the Weather Warfare Ban of 1976, and we will enforce this with our F-22 Raptors and our boats. And nobody touches our boats. So only with the threat of force, deadly force, can you back up a ban. You can ban people from having missile launchers. You can ban people from having assault rifles. If you banned all the guns in the world, they banned liquor. Did that work? Prohibition never works. Backing it up with a threat of violence, that works. So deterrence is the only way to stop geoengineering. Finally, the aforementioned Environmental Modification Treaty. Though I hate the United Nations, I think that they should be dissolved because they're absolutely useless. All they do is basically cover for China's shenanigans and, make a whole lot of useless things. There is that treaty, and that treaty does need to be updated. So my solution to that is called the Environmental Modification Accountability Act. And that is to basically say, you cannot, oh, Barry, shut up. We're wrapping up here. Don't even try to bring up HARRP. That's for another day. Go to weathermodificationhistory.com, click on pages, click on facts, and click on space weather modification. All the information about HARP's already on there. Dang. And then go download my PowerPoint. But the NMOD treaty, that's the solution. The Environmental Modification Accountability Act is like a 2-part solution for actually catching people doing weather warfare. You want to catch them CIA guys, you want to catch as Trump said, China's got a hurricane gun. Like if China truly has a hurricane gun, that's pretty secret. That's not going to be something you watch on flight radar. And the only way to catch somebody doing that is by improving atmospheric sensors, making a detection network. Oh, by the way, I proposed this solution over 10 years ago. It was originally called the Clarity Clause. People thought I was talking about Santa Claus. They didn't understand what a legal clause was. So I renamed it the Environmental Modification Accountability Act. But regardless, this year, NOAA announced that they are creating a geoengineering early warning system under the SABRE project and B2SAP project. Information on that on my Substack, climateviewer.substack.com. So yeah, things are slowly progressing in the right direction. People are starting to wake up. You're not the only one who's noticed Dane wigging out. We call him Vane on my channel, by the way, on my Telegram chat. Vane Wigington's shenanigans are being noticed by more than just you. Everybody's kind of like, up in arms. And right now, 22 states are trying to pass geoengineering and weather modification bans. All of this is easily predictable because of sunspots and mass excitability. Andrew Szewski said basically that during solar maximums are times of revolution and maximal energy. So we've got about one more year before people start to peter out and they don't give a damn anymore. So I'm going to take advantage of this with every chance I got to, that's why we're seeing all this activity right now. And while people are maximally energized by the solar maximum currently going on, which I personally also think is why Trump got elected and they were scared, whatless, that this would happen. That's because people are very energetic. And the last time this happened was in 2012, 2013, 2014. And I saw the exact same thing. I mean, massive numbers on all the things. Everybody cared about all the things. And then you start going back into the solar minimum 13-year cycle till everybody's just like, I don't give a damn about anything. Can I just watch something entertaining? But now's the time. So if you want to start a ruckus with all those mother truckers, then you need to get educated and get activated. And anybody who's not proposing solutions or even trying, enjoy your infotainment.
All right, Jim, that's a great close up there. Again, yeah, we have to have you on sooner than a year or whatever it was the last time. I think we had you last on the Lahaina fires where we were saying I think we both agreed, because the big narrative then was it's direct energy space weapons, right? And we're like, no, both of us were like very skeptical about that. Like, I want to believe it, but I just don't. I can't. I'm sorry.
People don't understand that the beam widens as it goes down through the atmosphere. And, understand? Let's not rehash it. It's a lot of science is just over most people's heads. And even on this one, we're talking about space lasers. Like, let's be realistic, bro. If they got space lasers, then why didn't they shoot Jeffrey Epstein? Like, what, aren't they doing something good with it? Oh, but I will give you this. And this is a parting gift. Elon Musk's Starlink is also known as Star Shield. It's part of the Department of Defense's Star Shield network, where he has specific satellites just for them. And Ronald Reagan would be proud because he's making his Star Wars a reality. Even on the Wikipedia page, talking about Elon Musk's Star Shield, they talk about deploying directed energy weapons on those Star Shield satellites. Is Elon Musk creating a laser field in the sky of satellites to shoot down nuclear rockets? That's pretty interesting crap, man. Not exactly Jewish. He's African American. But you know, God bless the African American for taking over Twitter and making speech freer and allowing us to all have a good time on there. And that's why I told everybody on my feed to definitely go over and follow Weaponized News. Sam's one of the good people, and I don't hang out with losers, so I appreciate you, Sam.
Thank you, Jim Lee from climateviewer.com. Everybody go visit his website, visit his store. Like overwhelming, your site is very, very professional. Let's put it up there again. Overwhelming amount of information here, digging in. And I like this one. I copied this for the thumbnail of this video, weathermodificationhistory.com. And it's just all, it just goes on and on and on and on and on and on and on. All the encyclopedia of all this stuff is right there on your website. So we really do appreciate all your hard work that you put in over the years, compiling everything into these websites and all your great insights on today's show.
I love making the websites. And by the way, I don't only take donations. I will work for my money. So if you need a website that's absolutely beautiful, I made all my websites. If you want one pretty like mine, you can email me, call me. My phone number is on my website, and I would love to earn some money making websites for you. Because at the end of the day, I got bills to pay right now as we speak. So I'll take whatever I can get. If anybody wants to donate, that everything on my website is open source, free of charge, always will be, no paywalls. All of my videos, you can download them. You can do whatever the hell you want to with them. You can remix them. Put Nazi regalia on me. I don't even care. It's been done before. But if you do support my work, it's greatly appreciated. It goes directly into supporting building my studio in my backyard, because as you can see right now, I'm in my bedroom, and this is where me and my wife sleep. So if I can get out of the house, I probably will stay married another 20, 30 years. And that would be a good thing. So please help me stay married and build a studio in my backyard, so that when I decide to continue talking till 10:48 at night, and my wife likes to lay in the bed and chill out and watch the TV over top of here at 10 o'clock, I'm not in the doghouse. I'm in the studio. So that's where we're going. And I hope that everybody, if you guys will support me on that, then that'd be great. And definitely support Sam. He's one of the good ones. I don't know anybody who's been doing it as long as either one of us that isn't struggling at some point. We don't have corporate sponsors. It ain't easy. And you don't do this for the money. You do this because you love what you do. And I'm the same way. I do this because I'm passionate about it. I literally was going to try to squeeze in a nap after work before this, and I'll just spill the beans. Monty Fritz called me from, Tennessee. They're going back in to, fight the next leg of the battle on the legislation there. And when I saw the call, I went, but I'm exhausted and I need a nap. I got to call him back. So I ended up talking to him to literally, that's why I was a little bit late. It's like 8:04, 8:05 when I got in here. It's because I was on the phone with Monty Fritz. So I've literally been on the phone all damn day long talking about this. And it's, it's a thankless life. But at the end of the day, You don't do this for praise. You do this because you love it.
All right, Jim. Thank you very much, Jim Lee of Climate Viewer. As always, everybody do your own research. Peace, love, and liberty. Speak out and take action. Have a great rest of your Thursday evening. And we have a blockbuster show again tomorrow here at Weaponized News. I'm going to play out with Scott Armstrong as we're making through his album. He gave me permission to play it. Scott Armstrong, Universal Basic, awesome. Rock the boat to play us out. And we'll see you back here tomorrow on Weaponized News.
Don't
he called into, bragging that now his tower was the tallest building in New York. Probably the only guy in the city that was not afraid of more planes. And also, there's no way that pandas could exist in the wild. They're completely fake, made in a lab. They only ovulate like once a year for a couple days. They're all owned by China. Look into it. And I find it very curious that Arthur Balfour's niece and her husband were the ones that originally had Mein Kampf translated into English. Talk about manufacturing consent. And then the proposed Corwin Amendment to the Constitution was basically the North telling the South, look guys, just go ahead and keep your slaves, okay? Just don't go. You can keep your slaves, just don't go. So that complicates a lot of narratives. And I didn't know that they had bubbles and